In 1962, Amazing Fantasy number 15 hit the comic stand, announced to be the final book, with third help creator, Dan Lee, whose projected concept of a teenage youth, gifted by a miraculous radioactive spider bite, who gained incredible power, but learned that the great power had to come with great responsibility. This is indeed the tale of a spectacular, sensational, and indeed amazing friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man. He has become a worldwide phenomenon, reaching live television, to video games, to theme park attractions, to stunt shows, and in 2002, just 40 years after Peter Parker donned the suit and took flight across New York and to the hearts of many, a film franchise would begin that no one ever dreamed would be this ambitious. Welcome, one and all, to Web-trospective, 20 years of Spider-Man in film.
Once again, JosieCat79 here, aka Chris, with another episode of Web-trospective, joined by my usual co-host, Derek, aka Darkneon.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
Okay, that's the review. That's all you got to hear. Goodbye. Okay. Really, we had to get to this point eventually because, or as Harry would say, you knew this was coming. We knew this was coming.
So yeah, it's been quite a wild ride going through this so far, and we've got like plenty more to go. We got a few ideas down the line, but yeah, it was kind of like one big nostalgic trip for us to go back to watching the what is known as the Raimi trilogy, of course.
Especially this one,
as many people would say, of the Spidey media.
Also, what's the deal with trilogies? Is that not what they hear say? Because let's face it, Spider-Man 3 had a lot on the line for it being on the fact that it was a 3. Because let's face it, before the current age of multiple universes and multiple stories, you were a big deal if you made it to trilogy status. Come on, look at some of the great trilogies of the past. Derek?
It's counting from the back of my hand. Star Wars, Back to the Future, Toy Story, when it was a trilogy at one point.
Indiana Jones, when that was a trilogy at one point. The Scream series, when that was a trilogy. Okay.
The Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yes, that's definitely a trilogy. And The Hobbit, bafflingly, was a trilogy when that was meant to be a duology, but that's neither here nor there.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
Yes, that just Dark Knight Rises just turned 10 this very July, so very nostalgic there. The Fire Rises. The Godfather trilogy, although people like to say the third one was kind of the
I heard that the newer recut version of that is pretty good.
Yeah, and then of course there was the Alien trilogy until that stopped being a trilogy.
Did Predator even get to be a trilogy at one point?
Well, it's up in the air. I don't know if we can call Predators part of a trilogy or not. It's complicated. But the Jaws became a trilogy at some point, but that's when it went.
And then someone mistakenly put a fourth one out there for reasons that baffle even me.
Well, I love this quote. I gotta quote this. Every time that movie gets brought up, we have to quote this. Did you see Jaws 4? No. But I did see The House I Bought for My Mother, and it was lovely. As Michael Caine famously said. Also credited to Dark Knight. But point is, trilogies are a big deal back then when you got them. This is before the current day of multiple universes and multiple entries, and a thing being, a thing. Oh, the prequel trilogy. I just remember that too. That's kind of part of Star Wars Saga too. But yeah, trilogies were all the rage. So the fact that, as we learned in Scream and everything, the rules of sequels is that the more you do, the more higher your reach has to go. And with Spider-Man 3, and Spider-Man 2 was already like a major reach up. So even in special features for Spider-Man 2, Toby said that I love the first one, and this one whooped the first one's ass. So I'm just wondering where we can go from here. That's what he said in that interview.
And well, um, it whooped it, I guess, in some way.
I don't know. Yeah, this okay. So,
The point
as
is,
yeah,
like, it's kind of hard to keep to making a consistent trilogy, especially with the fact that there's people that have expectations where they think that the entire story is all planned out when really it's just like kind of what Kevin Flynn says. It's like sometimes you just do what you do, you just make the most of it.
hmm and yeah. So, we knew there was going to be a third one because two was so awesome, and I think of the three, Spider-Man 3 is the most nostalgic for me out of them all. Like, yes, I know I watched the original one on Thanksgiving dinner on DVD, and yes, I saw Spider-Man 2 in the theaters with my folks. But Spider-Man 3 was when me started going to movies more often, and that really felt like a treat because I always loved the first two. So, and my hype level only went through the roof when the first we were hearing rumors about what it's going to be about, and then when they showed off that poster of Spider-Man back to back with a dark suited version of him. Like me watching the animated series, knowing the black suit was coming, made me go, oh my god, they're doing the black suit.
And then, oh my god, that teaser that just came out.
Yeah, they did that thing with the like a close up of his suit, and they're asking the tagline, what will happen when the hero has to face the darkness within himself? And they have the black goo showing up, and then you see him in the rain in the black suit, and then you get your build up moments until like the choir music starts because it works so well for Spider-Man 2's teaser that when they did this one, it's like it felt like this was going to be like a game changer, like a world ender almost, with the way the images were showing. I mean, we were seeing Peter being aggressive to MJ. We see him with this new blonde girl who, if you know your comic history, is Gwen Stacy. We see Harry with the pumpkin bomb. What's that about?
We're seeing images of sand.
hmm And we're like, what? And then it ends on that shot that just gives you chills every time, where Spider-Man is upside down in the black suit, looking at his reflection of the colored suit, which is a direct callback to the comics and the animated series doing that. So that made just, and it didn't even give you a title; it just had a big old 3 in a gnarled web with like goose spreading from it.
Well, no, actually, the first one that was in like the theatrical one. In the teaser, it was always all black.
Oh yeah,
But
but
yeah, needless to say, the whole reflection gig is like so enamored with this whole hype for this thing. Like even I decided to say, you know what, maybe I should be able to reflect our like inner dark selves. Although it seemed to give you at least the proper black suit, but we'll get to that.
yeah. So, if for those of you who, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, but for those of you who don't, the black suited Spider-Man was a period. I think it was in the mid '80s or so, after the very famous Secret Wars crossover, where, long story short, multiverse shenanigans were happening, and at some point on in Battle World, Parker got a hold of a alien costume that was to be his new look ongoing, and they were proud of it. They had a cover recreating the Amazing Fantasy cover, but him in the black suit.
Wait, I thought I thought they got the black suit from the space shuttle with the J. Jameson's
No,
son
no, no.
crashing
That's
into
the
New York.
animated series.
Yeah, so essentially that's what a lot of people were kind of hoping was going to happen in this movie, especially since we introduced John in the previous movie. But John is so not appealing in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I guess breaking up with MJ must have really made him go off on another mission to space, at least. Or
Or
at least,
another spin-off.
he won't be some Wolfman by night.
Not yet, anyways. But
But yeah, the
anyways,
point is though, the
uh,
black suit is a big deal in comic history. I mean, you got that iconic comic book cover of Spider-Man with his whoa appearance to the point where you have other pop culture things referencing it and T-shirts and stuff. Like I love the Zero Suit version of that. I think Chris Stuckman has that shirt, so I get jealous every time I see it. There's even the Stranger Things homage to that with 11 and everything.
So, you're able to talk about your hype for this movie. My hype, it's I was kind of older at the time, 2007, so that would put me about like 14 years old. So pretty much picture a kid who's kind of like so hyped for this movie that he goes to the point of like, you know, following the wisdoms of yogurt, of merchandising to build up the action figure lineup where they actually re-released some villains from the original two and then the villains for this one, and it even thought, out of the hell, let's just toss in like villains that are even seen in the video games like Scorpion and so forth.
By the way, that Green Goblin figure is one of the best figures I've ever owned back then. I'm shame I don't have it no more. And funnily enough, that's the Goblin figure used by Random Guy for his Goblin blogging and all that stuff.
It's either that or the OG like first movie one with the removable mask that showed old Willem Dafoe in there.
Speaking of which, happy birthday to Willem Dafoe, who just turned, I think, 67, if I saw the post right.
Yay!
But
So,
yeah.
but there's also that. There's also like I even bought freaking bed sheets, like the Spider-Man 3 bed sheets for a while I had. But and also even got like the old like the first time I actually got one of those like web shoe can dispensers. Always the rage for any Spider-Man media. It's like you're a Spider-Man fan growing up if you didn't at least ask, "Hey, can I have web shooters for Christmas or birthday?" At least once.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, I think you're right. Looking back at it, Spider-Man had a lot of merch. Spider-Man 2 had a lot of merch, but this was a behemoth. They were like we found out there were like 8 different games made at the same time, covered wonderfully by the game apologist. We keep doing a lot of crossover with that guy, but not literally, but I mean we keep referring to his work because the guy just does a good job of covering what no one else will cover. So, but yeah, they made a lot of games. I owned the DS copy and I actually enjoyed it. Just contrary to what some people think, I had some fun with it, but because I didn't have no fancy PS3 or Xbox, so I couldn't play the HD version. Which, looking at what I've missed, I'm missing giant lizards. I mean, go on.
I actually didn't get the video game until after the fact, and even then I didn't get that far playing. I think the prologue just threw me off. It's like, well, this is definitely not Spider-Man 2 quality, so I'm just gonna let it slide.
But it did
But
give us one of the best
it's
moments.
it's not a, it's basically not a good look when I think that the spin-off game that came after like Spider-Man 3 got a whole media release, Friend or Foe, was considered like more better than the quality of like even the HD versions
Holy
of the
wow!
game.
But
Hey,
yeah,
at least they got the characters in a stylized art form.
yeah. Although, and don't let's not forget that's the opening level quick time event gave us one of the most funniest ever laugh out loud moments in Spider-Man history, where Spider-Man fails, face plants, and the hapless person blows up. Just the facial animations, Spidey's face plant, and the explosion was a perfect comedic timing. Like, oh my god! Like, I saw that randomly on a compilation vid, and I laughed so hard I didn't expect it because, and then when I actually played the game, I was laughing even harder. I think I would botch on purpose just so I could see that moment.
Although at a certain point in the game, you're not doing it on purpose. It's really because the uh, button prompts are really, really, really damn fast.
This was during that rough period when a lot of games were going quick time, quick time, quick time.
Instead of just going like, "Hey, why don't we just let people actually press the buttons that like are mapped to like what they're supposed to do?"
Quick time, quick time. Even Resident Evil 6 got in on the quick time. But yeah, 4 had them too, but 6 had them to a very hilarious degree. But anyway, off topic. Yeah, the hype for this thing was real. But like we said, there was a lot of merchandising.
And so it bears no ill will to say like even like before I actually stepped in to see the movie, I actually a claw machine across the theater before we got in. I was able to score a black suit Spidey that was like hanging from a thread.
Oh.
And after that, I managed to have him hanging up. I still have him, but I don't have him hanging from the fan cords in my room. But
Also,
I did growing up at a time. He was always right there.
so
But needless to say, having said all that, my initial reaction to see this film was kind of a letdown,
oh
kind of
yeah, but
disappointing,
yeah, we'll get to
even
that.
for a 14-year-old. That's not really a good sign.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a bit. But I think another thing, I'm looking at your order. I know we're not going in order, but they were really going big, not just in the merchandising, but even in the production. Because at the time, I remember reading magazines, and I had a subscription to Entertainment Weekly at the time, and they were having a big summer spread on that summer, and there was big movies coming out. There you had X3, Spider-Man 3, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Like there was a shit. That was the year of threes.
But
Hell,
not only that, but it was also even the same year that freaking Transformers came out. Think
but
about that. You were in the same year that Spider-Man 3 came out, and then Transformers. And looking at them side by side, you would be hard pressed to even believe that they came out in the same decade.
even funny is the fact that Transformers was just a little tiny box corner on the side saying this movie's coming out in July. Spider-Man 3 had the big old spread. Jack Sparrow had a whole page to himself. Shrek had a whole page to himself because Shrek 3 came out that year too. Jeez, wow, a lot of movies. But yeah, Transformers was the tiny little box like, oh yeah, this movie's coming out too. You can check that out if you want. And then
And
that
then
ended
it
up.
hit like a brick.
Oh God, I love that movie. I mean, this year also marked the 15th anniversary of that film, and I almost toyed with the idea of us doing a talk about that. Maybe sometime. Maybe if we get some Rise of the Beast stuff, we'll like talk about it. But yeah, point is, this was so big that even it was touted as one of the most expensive movies made at that time. It was definitely the most expensive movie Sony made that year, and
But how would it be that expensive? I mean, surely, like, sure, it's the third entry of like a big succeeding franchise. Why would it be so expensive? It was a tiny little faction that had one of these things is not like the other. Yeah, this one they actually filmed on the actual city.
yeah, and we all know New York City is quite a pretty penny to film in for a lot of stuff. That's why you usually have a lot of other cities subbing in for New York. Hell, even in Spider-Man 1 and 2, yes, there was a few shots that were indeed New York because they had to get them, but they couldn't do a whole lot of on-location shooting.
Which is why they had to edit in like the whole. They were essentially like skyboxes, essentially, if you will. But in a way, they gave it kind of like a fictional sensation of New York that would be like a Marvel Comics kind of thing, where it's like, oh yeah, I see some iconography, but then you have like buildings like Oscorp or the Otto's freaking
Apartment.
apart complex, and then but then when you go to this movie, you can immediately sense how different it is, considering the fact that the camera angles and the shooting spots are legit. Actually, feels like you've been in New York. I've been to New York, and I can tell you, looking at these shots, I could recognize like certain locations of where I've been and where like I could like if I were to go back again after seeing the movie more recently, I could probably press out which spots where the Sandman and Spidey had their vault fight, or where Spidey has this little parade gathering celebration. But it's like all there. You could actually just go to the city and find location spots that they filmed for Spidey 3.
Well, yeah, because you're right. It had more of a larger than life, higher comic booky look in 1 and 2, but here, like you said, you go in like, damn, it's more tangible if that makes sense. And the also the cinematography is a little more romantic looking too. Not like romantic comedy or romance, but it just has it's very different. It's the same
It's
reason why.
it's essentially like you're actually here. You're actually like down home here.
And it's why like even let's see like even Dark Knight Rises filmed a lot of its Gotham parts in Pennsylvania and in New York, and especially for that chase scene at the stock exchange, and you go, oh yeah, that's definitely New York.
Uh,
But yeah, so
but
yeah, you're
to be fair, we think they're not that far from each other. So
Yeah, and you're right because not everybody can shoot in New York, but certain movies give you that New York feel. Martin Scorsese movies always feel because he likes to go on location. Always does good with New York. Even like when they filmed Godzilla '98. Some of it was in L.A., but other parts were indeed in New York because they wanted to get that big scale, and that's where you go like, oh yeah, that is New York, drenched in rain and stuff like that. So it's different when say you see a movie like say some of the Marvel Avengers movies where they're shooting in Georgia primarily at the time, so they kind of have to sub in for New York, and you kind of tell like, yeah, that's New York, but it's kind of the MCU's New York. And when they actually get to go to New York, you can feel the difference.
Exactly, and it's not only that, but like you also have to remember that this is a Spider-Man movie they're shooting. So think back to how we talked about the whole Spidey cam and how it kind of revolutionized how like superhero movies swooped in and around to make you feel like you're doing whatever a Spider can. And now imagine that they're actually setting this thing up at legit New York buildings. And bear in mind, these buildings are actually really tall, like really like high scale, like pretty huge. And like you have this like important camera like zooming down to do the iconic shots of like Spidey zooming down to greet the citizens of New York as they're ready to give him the key to the city, and it's kind of mind-boggling. It's like they even said in the behind the scenes, like no one's ever shot a movie in New York quite like this.
But yeah, so filmmaking inventor bought Congress of Cleveland, Ohio. The Great Commission offering production space at St. Vincent Center in Cleveland. They shot the battle between Salmon and the armored car. Moved to Manhattan. Various state one Chase Manhattan Plaza. Oh man. Um, yeah, you're right. There was a lot of expectation, but maybe there was a little too much because let's think about it. The other movies set up we're gonna be getting a resolution to the Green Goblin Harry storyline, so they teased at the end of Spider-Man 2. But we're
Right?
also
That makes
getting
sense.
we're also getting this idea of the Sandman with a new thread that brings him into Peter's origin that makes it a little more of a personal thing for him. Like, okay. We're also
Oh,
throwing in the black suit.
oh okay. Oh, we're also continuing the romantic relationship between MJ and Peter, and
But
the
here's Gwen
possible follow-up
Stacy,
with that, and adding Gwen Stacy,
and
and
then there's Eddie
oh,
Brock.
oh no, that means they're gonna fill him in. Oh, this smells like a recipe for disaster just waiting to happen.
Oh yeah. And like I said though, but what's great about this movie is it's filled with full of Sam Raimi-isms. But I think at this point maybe it was a little unchecked Sam Brady because some people might say that there are moments in this movie that are, well, for lack of a better word, cringe. I don't like using that word myself because I myself don't see it that way, but I can see how someone could look at this and be like, What?" Because you got like Parker making acoustics jokes that of him being an awkward nerd because that's what we're used to seeing. But people are going, "My God, is he trying so hard?" Or you get stuff like uh
Practicing like his marriage proposal and he making it seem like it's a spectacle. It's
or you got like a very cartoonish amount of pills in front of a anger check J. Jonah Jameson that you're going like, this is a serious movie? This is a comedy or like keep in mind this stuff was in the other two movies, but this is on another
but
scale.
by the second one we were starting to elevate to getting serious. Like we actually had a whole movie that was about struggling with like anxiety and stress and all of that, like really deep stuff that connected, and even adding the villain into it to show the mirroring Pierre's dark ambitions if he had like not taken the whole great power, great responsibility route and seeing like these two like scientific geniuses and their anxieties and all their hopes and dreams, that how they've like come at odds ends with each other. And and then you go from that, and then you go to a movie that's trying to be serious but also funny.
But that's always been Sam's style. I mean, look at Army of Darkness, another one of his trilogies, where there was horror in the other two, but he decided to add the horror with a little bit of adventurous comedy and go more for a medieval epic thing than for straight horror. Yeah, the horror is still there, but at this point, Army of Darkness is a way different beast than Evil Dead 1. But then
Whereas here, it's like you're still seeing like you're still having like a superhero movie, but then you also have to remember that there's this guy whenever he gets the black suit on, he's gonna have to be aggressive and a little bit unchecked and like also being like more vengeful on
which he
like
is.
certain bad guys. But then he's also like kind of losing in his inhibition. He starts to like act a little bit cocky, but he's a nerd, so he's obviously acting what he thinks is what people act like when they're cocky. Even
Well,
down to imagining himself being in a montage.
but this a montage that people jokingly say we don't talk about that. But yeah, but at the same time, there's still moments that make you cheer, that make you gasp. Two moments in particular, which we'll talk about in detail. But yeah, I think a lot of people were confused. Walking out, like you said, you came out a little let down. What?
But that was years ago, so maybe revisiting it, we could try to dissect this goopy mess and see probably like the end result of the battle within. So, what is the actual story of this whole thing?
Well, the story is basically that, Spider-Man is kind of finally got his life together. The city is actually starting to love him and all that stuff. He's got MJ is starting her big stint on Broadway like he predicted many years ago, in their little talk in the back ways. But at the same time, he has to deal with the rift from Harry, which eventually culminates in Harry deciding, fuck it, I'm going to act on this now, and giving himself to super juice, only without none of the psychotic tendencies his dad had. Apparently, he must
Or
have
the
improved.
theatrical costume.
Yeah, he's going for more utility than for killing it. So, uh, at the same time, while MJ's life is starting to fall apart, Peter's kind of going up in his own head in the cloud story until that gets violently crashed down by the fact that it is revealed that the man who actually did kill his uncle is still at large, and that he just ran into him as a superpowered villain, so it becomes a little more personal for him. And this anger and inhibition is attracting a negative force, in this case, a being from outer space, the symbiote.
Whoa. I think you're going a little bit too far here. Did you just say an alien from outer space?
It came from outer space was the classic way to describe where such a thing could come from.
But where did it come from?
Outer space.
Okay, how did it get into this New York setting?
In a meteorite, like the blob.
Okay, do they explain where that meteorite comes from exactly? Like how
Well, I
destructive it was?
think in the novelization they said there was like some meteor shower, and that's what they were watching in that web. So maybe some comet passed by and it picked up a Kleintar. Who knows?
And it had an alien in the meteorite.
Well,
I
yeah.
didn't bring the quote up, but this is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
So yeah, the suit makes him more powerful, more stronger, but a little more reckless, and he starts changing, and he's thinking about maybe he should be careful with this. But the more he puts it on, the more he likes it. But the more he puts it on, the more dangerous it becomes to even those he cares about. And all this comes crashing to a head when he has to deal with his friend trying to kill him, his uncle's killer, and this new threat coming from within, basically his dark side manifesting with this suit. So will this be the end of our lovable webhead?
Also, Eddie Brock is there. He doesn't play a big part in this movie. At least I don't think.
I think you got the wrong kind of animal there, sir. And don't worry, this isn't Tom Hardy's eating a lobster in a tank antic venom.
But yeah, for just describing it like straightforward like that, it sounds like it's like a
Oh,
lot to take in at one point, to the point where a lot of fans kind of compare this to the likes of Batman and Robin, which I would argue is like, look, it's a little bit full on itself, and it's like all over the place, but at least it has more pathos and characteristics than Batman and Robin. At least we
they
actually get to feel for the Sandman in his origin.
and they admitted.
At least we've already built up on like Harry Osborn becoming the foil to Peter. At least, well, okay, there's no arguing that the Venom kind of came in at the last second in this one.
Well, hey, at least at least Black Cat didn't come and talk about how every Black Cat figure comes with a rhino figure as well. Although you wouldn't mind that if they cast a really hot Felicia back then.
Well, they were gonna try to do it, but we'll discuss that another time.
Yeah. So you're right. It sounds like it's on the honest thing, and also another thing, they admitted they were kind of making stuff for the toys with Batman and Robin. At least Sam had a story he wanted to tell. That you can't deny.
I mean, yeah, there was a large heap of merchandise, but I mean, to be fair, it's like this is kind of like a third entry of like a big like series that's been going on for like 5 years at the time. So
Yeah.
of course they were. I guess you could say it was kind of their way to celebrate both the new movie and the fact that it's been 5 years since the epic began, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's the basic gist of the story. But yeah, that because someone said it's kind of ballsy for them to make the big bad of their third movie, well, the hero himself, because yeah, Harry's trying to kill him, and yeah, Sandman's robbing stuff, but the guy doing the most damage in this movie
He's
is
Peter Parker.
yeah. And that all comes into a head with his sort of Star Trek Dark World mirror image of Eddie Brock, who's also a guy who's up and coming and has similar tropes like Parker, only he didn't have that upbringing that Parker does. He has more of a sense of entitlement of, come on, give me a break. This is I've earned this without really earning it through because Parker worked the hard way, and here's this guy thinking he can get the same thing, but he's smooching his way with a little more smugness, a little more arrogance, a little more like if Parker didn't have Uncle Ben and Aunt May, he could have easily turned up like this entitled guy like Brock.
So yeah, and the fact that we've actually reached like it's even to the point where it's actually affecting like his love with Mary Jane, and it's heartbreaking considering the fact that we've literally spent 2 movies getting these two together. That was like literally the crux of Spidey like ended up becoming who he is in the first movie, and in the second movie where he like, is what finally was the nail in the coffin for him to realize it's like, okay, wait, stop. I need to get my goddamn priorities straight here. I can't put everything aside just for this one promise that I made to like my father figure. It's like there's got to be more to life than this.
Mhm. Yeah. So all this story wouldn't amount to much if we didn't have like a superhero movie, if we didn't have all the razzle dazzle to go with it. And let's say they really did up the effects. That budget wasn't just primarily location. There's also a lot more effects. Now, usual effects master John Dykstra was unable to, do this movie, but he did get his, best protege Scott Skodak to carry on the baton. And they come up with some ambitious effects where you're going like, yeah, you can kind of see the seams a little now, but at the time you're still going, wow, like you have like full digital mock-ups of Tobey Maguire in his regular suit gliding through New York while swinging off the Chrysler Building, shooting at the Goblin and stuff like that.
Or you or to the like okay, so those not really that I know, trying to do effects for stuff like sand and CGI at the time, like the best you could probably get at that up at that point was probably like the Mummy, but that
Yeah.
was mostly for like far away shots, not really close up, not really like personal 1-on-1 with the likes of Sandman. So obviously they really had to go down to the getting this figured out right, because otherwise it's just basically just gonna have a character that's just gonna have like effects that people are gonna look at like, yeah, that's more like a block man than sand.
Yeah. And even in toy form, it's hard to get that sound effect right. So the fact that they actually devoted a lot of time to particle effects, and not only that, but actual testing of like sand or things with similar sand-like consistencies to get that feeling of flow. Like for example, a lot of the stuff they use is ground cornmeal, and it really does give the impression of sand.
That, and also it won't accidentally kill your staff when if like a sandbag or two like rips open too much.
Yeah, or your line producer Grant Curtis, who plays a security guard in this movie and constantly gets hit by sand because he happened to be the poor sap that had to protect the money from Sandman.
But yeah, no, let's there's actually one scene in particular, but we're actually gonna save that for when we talk about the character. But boy howdy, I'm probably sure a lot of you know the scene we're talking about, but let's actually focus on the fact that they actually went out of the way to like really emphasize that this is like a man that's made out of sand that he's fighting, to the point where they'll like for the scene of Spider-Man punching him through his gut, you would think it's like, oh, that's like CGI shot. It's like, nope, that's actually an actual amputee wrestler that's in the Spidey suit that's given the half fist through the gut to actually emphasize it.
And they showed that picture everywhere. That picture of like Sandman with like his back exploding with sand coming through, and Spider-Man like elbow deep in him, and you go like, that don't look like a digital composite effect. That looks pretty good. And it was CGI enhanced in the final film, but it still is like a whoa. Like you just go like, shit, he actually went through him.
And not only that, but they also really had to uh, do a lot of the sand particle effects to like hit like certain people, especially whenever the Sandman is like going large or blowing sand across through with the wind, and you got whole debris of people getting caught in the crossfire of like all the sand and all that. And it's they don't cut corners. They like Sam is the type of person that's like, if it can do it, let's actually do it. Let's not like cut corners and just go through like the CGI thing. We only say that for stuff that we obviously legit can't do.
Like a giant 20-foot Kirby-esque Jack Kirby-esque Sandman monster, right?
Exactly. Or this was actually one that actually surprised me until I recently looked at featurettes. This giant wall of water that Spidey uses to defeat the Sandman. It's actually a legit water wall that they blasted down. Like I honestly thought it's like, okay, so they got the set and then like they'll add an effect to the water, because that looks impractically huge for anyone to actually film it. Then there's Sam Raimi on the corner going, it's like, oh, you're testing me, are you? Okay, smartass, I'll play. And they really it's kind of hard to explain, but they essentially made a really huge tank to just dump water in to fire off at one go. So it can
Can you
actually
imagine? This is a running joke we always make when there's like you only got one shot at this. Oh, I didn't take the cover off of the camera. Can you roll again?
ah!
Because imagine being that guy. Like, for example, in Independence Day, they built this intricate. It took weeks to paint this intricate, detailed model of the White House before they ended up. It's gone in 10 seconds once that bomb goes up. Imagine you do that and you say, "Oh crap, I didn't hit record. Can we do that again?" Like, that has happened in Tokusatsu with Godzilla movies sometimes. So, but yeah, but you gotta be like, you're right. You got to be on your A game. Okay, we only got one shot of this. And I'm sure they did safety practices up the wazoo to make sure that the stuntman getting doused doesn't get like torn apart by the water pressure.
And also, like as we pointed out the last time, the fact that they actually are being bold, much more bold to allow uh, actors to do like more Spidey isms, like swinging down to high five a crowd, or actually doing the upside downs. Like, I honestly thought like it's a couple of shots like it's kind of hard to tell if it's CG or if it's actor, because like you usually think like, okay, I can like kind of tell by the consistency of the costume that that's gotta be CG. It's like, nope, that was a live one.
Well, like yeah, like in Spider-Man 1, there were shots where they kind of had to, and you can kind of see the jump of that's Willem Dafoe in a Goblin suit to that's a CG model looking like Willem Dafoe flying on a Goblin suit. You can kind of tell that back in those early days, but it's evolved to the point where yeah, there's some parts where you can still go, okay, that's kind of PlayStation 3 cutscene lookingish, but still, it's for
But
the
then,
most.
you get the huge like hanging on tower scene with Gwen Stacy, and the amazing like ballet of choreography for Spidey to go through that debris to catch her. It's like so good. It's like you can definitely tell where they spent their money on
It's
it.
such a Spider-Man moment too, man.
It's essentially like a moment they even like brought back up in like video games later on, especially the PS4 one.
But yeah, so yeah, but obviously, of a movie of this size and this scale, you're gonna have a few things where they're kind of pretty much cutting down to the last minute, and every now and then an effect that little dodgy might pop up, and you go like, yeah, a little iffy, but it's few and far between in this movie, if you ask me.
And you would even think like, okay, well, obviously the black uh suit, that effect that's gotta be done. Just like, well, that's some shots it is, but it's kind of like really effective that they actually portray this, because they even said behind the scenes like this is a thing that like it works when it's on paper, of how it works and all that. It's entirely another thing where you have to realize like, okay, how would this kind of actually move if it was like here in real life? It obviously can't like work like it's a alive weird thing that just has like no bones about it. You gotta like really think on it, and even at standpoint that you don't want to lose the fact that it's like got a liquid shape to it.
So they did a lot of research on like oils and stuff, and they wanted to like really make you feel like this thing is threatening, but it has different states of moving around, like each tendril. It's actually quite poetic to see the symbiote move in this thing.
I actually jokingly say like, it kind of looks like the Slinky of Death, the way it moves. Like, you ever took a Slinky and coiled it down the stairs to see it like move, like where it's like heaving one end and then jumping on the other, it's climbing like downwards. It's like even saying a little bit while we were watching it, it's like, everyone loves a Slinky, gotta get a Slinky.
Slinky, Slinky, go, Slinky, go. But oh man, when this thing is, but once it gets on him, like here's a funny thing too. This is an iconic suit. Everybody who's seen the cartoons or seen the comics knows what this suit looks like. So how do you translate something like that into the picture? Because like you said, drawing on a comic, that's one thing, but having to make it like physical. So they managed to find a way to work thematic with it. Uh,
And this is where people are kind of divisive. Like, obviously at the time we thought it was the coolest thing, because like, oh, finally it's a black suit, it's here at last. Wait, that back there were some people who are kind of like, well, why does it just look like the regular suit but just dipped in ink?
but yeah, but I
Like,
actually like.
even I kind of like sit back and look like they couldn't have made at least the cool Spidey symbol, like that looks more threatening with the arching like forelegs, to actually be white.
Yeah. And on top of that, like I said, oh my God, that year there were so many Venom shirts at Hot Topic and stuff. People had hoodies or shirts with that black and white spider on it. I mean, I kind of didn't have. I only had a black shirt, so I kind of took a paper and I traced the spider logo as best as I can on it, and I taped that white cutout on my black shirt.
How long did that last?
Uh, the screening, it lasted the screening at least.
Oh, well, that's something at least.
But yeah, like I'm saying though, yeah, like I said, everyone had that black suit. So yeah, so uh I think that it was well realized and it worked in the brief time span it was used. And like I said, this was the crux of the marketing, and it was made a big gameplay feature in all the games.
I will say that they did a pretty good job, like emphasizing when he has the suit on that. Actually, if you look at it, the suit kind of bulks him up just a tad, a little bit. It's almost like it's like giving him a little bit more strength while it's kind of feeding off his anger and aggression.
So it's kind of like Roid Rage.
And then also his movement is also changed, where it's kind of used to have like this graceful ballet and like dancing in the air kind of deal. Here he's kind of like hunching his shoulders and like being a little more analytic, and he's like even quicker to the pace. He's not being like flashy and making quips. He's like, in fact, you start to notice like he's starting to stop the jokes once he puts the black suit on. He's, oh, but like you're scum. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna kill you.
Oh, and he doesn't pull his punches with this one either. We noticed that he was leaving craters with his punches on the Sandman. That if he was a normal guy, I'm pretty sure his head would bust up like a cherry tomato from the force of that punch.
Yeah, and like let's kind of put this perspective. Like obviously you're doing comic and movie uh, comparisons, but like in the comics, they make an effort to point out how much that all of Spider-Man's punches that he's been doing they're mostly held back. Like he's Supermaning it because his actual punches would actually literally be fatal. And you think like, oh, he's just got the proportionate strength of a spider. Like what's gonna deal with that? But if you actually did the math of it, you realize like, okay, try to make this small thing, now make it human size, and now try to fight that.
That's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah, it would be, and you would pretty much like lose like in an instant.
But yeah, so the black suit takes away that inhibition. It's kind of like the inhibitor chip from Doc Ock has been removed, and you got this in his head telling him, "Go get it, get it." This scum took away who you loved. You gotta like make him pay hard. Like so, like you're right. This and I like how the suit eyes are more threatening. And oh, I
But
remember
yeah,
when
it's the only Stark thing that's white, and it's kind of like really sinister, especially in like shadows where it's just like all you can see.
and oh my god, and then there was of course the even when we were watching it, they were showing off his photos he took of Spidey taking on a bike again and everything, and you're like, holy shit, Spider-Man, what were you doing?
And then you might reach a point where you're like, go, you know what? I don't want to know. I really, really don't want to know what
I'm
you
pretty
did.
sure a lot of people are in the hospital, as I gotta say.
Might be losing a finger or two, but
But yeah, but like I said though, it was so hard for them to get right. They admitted because they admitted there were early concepts where they were more closer to the comic, using more of a latexy look, and it was just like a stark white and black. But one of the people jokingly remarked it looked kind of like a porno suit, like a gimp suit. So they kind of had to like find that balance of what's classic and what's iconic and everything. And eventually, they found a happy medium. And even the toy of Black Suit Spider-Man is bulkier and meaner looking than the than the standard Spider-Man toy that you got in that toy line.
I will admit, like thinking back, I distinctly remember like looking at it, it's like that's not black. I can think of like blacker than black colors. That's more like kind of like a gray
Graphite
suit.
gray, like a
That's
pencil.
graphite gray. That's exactly what it is. It's fucking graphite.
But in the movie, it looks black.
Well, I'm obviously in the night times they had to like heighten up, otherwise you're gonna lose them in like the actual darkness. Thankfully they did learn like oh wait no the Requiem was after that. So
Yes.
I would say like at least they learned not to take notes from Requiem on how to handle shading.
Well, don't forget, they actually had a good cut from the guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What happened was the home release got botched, and I don't know why I keep bringing that up every time this movie comes out. I watched it yesterday on my PS4, and I saw the whole fight clear as day, man. So either my vision's adjusting to this movie, or I got the one copy that actually looks good.
Well, then again, here I am sitting with the Godzilla, thinking like, oh hey, I can actually see like the fights going on. I don't know what everyone else is complaining about.
Yeah, I got a copy that was like shadows moving. I'm like, especially during the scene when the Muto gets the kiss of death. So I guess it depends on the transfer and on your TV. Settings exist on your TV for a reason, right?
Anyways, so obviously it's the way that the reason why we would have like a much more aggressive here is the fact that we have for the first time, but definitely not outside of like comic book mentality, we have a retcon. Oh joy!
Continuity alarm.
Oh joy! Those are always everyone's favorite.
Especially,
Okay, this isn't as egregious of a retcon as like most people would probably make paint out, but it definitely kind of really would make you have to go. It's like, wait, so they don't actually release details about this guy until now?
but yeah. So the big change, even the trailer showed us. The big change was that they always thought that robber who hit up the joint was actually the guy who shot Uncle Ben, but turns out there was someone else.
An
No,
accomplice, and what Pierre presumes to be the one that was behind it all.
yeah, the cops admit saying, "We have your actual killer here, Flint Marco, a cook who might, small-time crook, and that he might have just." People say witnesses are saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's how it went down." So Peter's thinking 2 years they haven't been told about this with witnesses. Like, he was rightfully pissed at the police at that point.
Like he poured his heart out to freaking Aunt May, and like now it's like, whoops! Well, it turns out that story you told wasn't the actual one at all. So both of you were in the wrong and thinking like putting yourselves down on that one.
But yeah, oh my gosh, but yeah, it's very dicey, and when you see Peter's version of events play out, it does look really shitty, to be honest.
But like to be fair, like the way that they filmed it in the first movie, especially the reaction of the guy and how trigger happy the dude was, it would not be outside of possibility that he would have ended up killing Ben had things gone differently. But we'll get to what actually happened later. But needless to say, the fact that they kept this out for like 2 years, it does kind of bring back to Scream 3, where Randy told the rules how like the
Including chapter of a trilogy.
how there's a fact of the history that you thought was true that isn't true.
Yeah, and it is interesting. It is a good way to tie in the Sandman to Spider-Man because every bad guy has had some connection to Peter in these movies that makes sense. Like Norman, father figure to him, and ended up becoming the Goblin. Doc Ock was a colleague and a guy he thinks he could aspire to be like, and he becomes a villain. There's really no connective tissue between Spider-Man and Sandman. In the comics, Sandman's just a thug who uses his sand powers to rob banks, and Spider-Man has to stop him most of the time. There's really no.
Even Stanley, when he created Stanley, it's like, okay, Stan, I think you really like went out of your mind at this point. It's like you're creating a guy that's able to create like sand particles around him and
Like, how
melt.
do you beat that?
And then he remarks like, well, now he's in a movie, so like, who'd have thunk it? But
Yeah,
it can kind of then your mind starts to realize like, wait, how can you find a guy that's made of sand? Because usually like Pete's like even when he's fighting super foes, there's still like a body like a pressure point to fight against. There's still like a limb to like stop and like redirect. There's still something to like trip up. But the Sandman, all rules of that go out the window, and like his tactics are kind of well, it's kind of limiting considering the fact that he can't like web up the guys when the web shots can just go right through him.
yeah, it's just yeah, like I said, that's a good challenge. So it's so funny. So they had to throw in that retcon of him being connected to Uncle Ben's death to make it a reason for Spider-Man to gun for this guy. Because like I says, he's just it's kind of like we're gonna get to this way later in movies down the line, but like there's really nothing connecting Spider-Man to the Rhino. He's just a guy who causes trouble for the day, and he's the guy that he has to put out of his way. Like, or like in the games, Shocker and Spider-Man. Shocker's just a guy who happens to be causing trouble. Spider-Man's all, well, there's my villain for the day, and it beats the tar out of him, right?
Well, there was that moment in the anime series where apparently Shocker did something that pissed Peter off so much that he shouts to the heavens,
All he did was just cross the street, man.
"Shocker! I'll chase you through the end of the earth!"
When I saw it, I thought, oh, did he like kill someone or something? No, I think he just attacked him just because Kingpin hired him to attack Spider-Man, and Spider-Man decides to like say, oh, you know, I've had enough of your shit, and I'm gonna like end you. Like hell, he comes so close. Even he's thinking, "Oh my god, I'm really gonna kill this guy."
Which does actually bring like I'm gonna switch up on our notes here because it's a pretty good transition. The fact that going back to the black suit, we aren't dealing with much darker tones here. We're dealing with fallout of a relationship. We're dealing with uh, old friends having to fight each other to the death over like a misunderstanding. We're having like Peter, who's essentially thinking that he's finally reaching the apex of his happy ending. He's wanting to propose Mary Jane, and things are not going the way he's like planned. Especially since like now the city's like not on his ass harassing him. The Bugle's kind of like in the dumps suffering because of the backlash. And
Well, other papers are actually doing better. In fact, well, I noticed when we saw the opening showing his happy montage, and he shows there's all the newspaper stands have all this why we love spider love. It's just a spider love fest. And I noticed how I didn't see the Daily Bugle amongst all those positive puff pieces.
that yeah, and it's just it's like and Peter just like like just has the black suit, and he decides to like really go out and kill the Sandman. Essentially, what he appears to be like his final death. He starts to really keep like having to realize like, oh my god, did I just really like do that? It's like, do I really actually need to have this suit? Maybe this is like too dangerous. But then there's the complications arise with Harry that like manipulates things to cause Peter to really like fly off the handle and really like kind of like self-destructs his life like even further to the point where
And
you might have to question like would he actually even get out of this even after everything's all said and done.
oh yeah, like Spider-Man does things where you go, that's not very hero-like. Like he
Drake
like
feels devils.
yeah, like for example, like there's a very violent fight between him and Harry, and Harry tries to like still get the last word in by throwing a pumpkin bomb. Without a hesitation, he grabs the pumpkin bomb and throws it right back at his best friend's face and walks away from the carnage like nothing. Like yeah, that's like another bug out of my way.
And he like utterly humiliates Eddie Brock in front of so many people, and even like that matches to say, "Oh, you want forgiveness? Get fucking religion."
Not in those words, but I mean but basically that's what he said. And point is, don't like. Yeah, like Brock did was scummy, but man, Peter put it on full blast in a way that you're going like, God damn, you didn't just fire him, you completely demolished his worth as a human being in the eyes of others.
You roasted him to like, well done steak.
No, not well done. He charbroiled him for crying out loud. Hell,
and,
like
and then it reaches the point where like he decides to have payback on Mary Jane without considering the fact that maybe Harry put her up to it, and then like ends up doing the most
using
shocking thing that causes the audience to gasp
so
loudly.
like he uses Gwen Stacy as a pawn just to show MJ, hey, I could actually trade up from you. Like you need me more than I need, basically, and just doing this outrageous display, and it becomes more aggressive, and then he strikes her in the middle of fighting the club because the suit enhances aggression. He's feeling very rowdy and wants to fight the whole world. So when he turns around and just backhands her, you get shocked, like holy shit.
Like he literally hit the girl next door that he's been pining for since like first grade. It's like it's heartbreaking to see that. Like really, like must have shocked 14-year-old me to see that. It's like, you were trying to get this girl and you like threw it out the window in one shot.
And hell, that's what causes him to realize the bad influence of the suit and inhibiting enhancing what's inside him. You could say, "Oh, well, the suit made him do it." Well,
Well,
no,
it's a little bit of that, but also like he had that real television when he found out that Flint was the one that killed him. And even Aunt May pointed out that revenge could be like a poison.
really twists you up from the inside, very corrosive. So, this is him. Like I said, the biggest, boldest choice in Spider-Man 3 is to make the bad guy the hero, so to speak. Mhm.
And that was kind of Sam Raimi's like intent from the beginning. He was always like more interested to create like a villain that isn't a like to quote from Wreck-It Ralph, like you are a bad guy, but that doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Exactly.
And
'Cause
by admission, it also means that even Peter is not like a sinless vigilante. He has some demons that he's been bottling up at this point. And this was the pin that really like popped the balloon, essentially.
So yeah, it's darker, and yeah, people like to remember there's the stupid dance scenes, the funny joke about cookies, all the memes, there's all this stuff, but there
But
are
then you
some
remember, oh yeah, this is also the movie where Venom like lashed out at on a SWAT team, like, and they showed the somehow didn't show an edited footage of the like slaughter on live TV.
or the fact that like I said, the original stuff was. We'll get to that when we get to the unmade stuff. But the original stuff was even more that's nightmare inducing for a kid, for crap's sake. And then on top of that, you got like again, you got Spider-Man. Remember that funny landlord from the second movie? Well, here you got him telling him off, but it's not funny. It's like, god
Get
damn,
your rent when you fix this damn door.
like shit. And you're going like to the point where even he knows
He
he's
is a good boy.
there's
It
something
doesn't
wrong.
happen.
See, like even he knows it's out of character. In fact, I think we would have been even more like, oh shit, if he decided to have like a big blow up at Jay Jonah. But then I think we know Jay Jonah would go nuclear on him and Whiplash, and there'd be no, there's no more movie, right?
To be fair, Teacher actually does give a snap, but we'll get to that when we talk about it, because I feel like that's like the best pinnacle of a character portrayed there. So, uh, I guess with the darker tone, we have to have an ambiance that matches with it with the soundtrack, which is not penned by Danny Elfman from beginning to end this time.
Well, because Danny and Sam had differences during the scoring of Spider-Man 2, and I think the bridge was not well enough for them to like come back to it. Eventually, they did work together again on Oz, Great and Powerful. Enough of the water under the bridge had happened, but at that point, I think
Didn't he come back for
Danny,
Multiverse of Madness, or am I just
yes,
imagining that?
he did.
Oh,
He did.
okay, yeah.
But I think the first time they worked together after Spider-Man 2 was Oz the Great and Powerful in 2011. So it took like a good 7 years for them to like reconcile. Okay, this is how your creative process is. This is how my creative process is, and we're back because they love working with each other. So the fact that there was a rift in Spider-Man 2, you know, it was serious. But they had a good understudy with Christopher Young doing supplemental score for Spider-Man 2 that they decided to hire him on full time. And he definitely
And
adds more of the horror to this thing, especially with some of the scenes with the symbiote. It has like a music that feels more out of like Hellraiser than Spider-Man. Huh?
yeah, it does. It actually does. It's actually kind of like makes you go like, huh, they may be doing a Hellraiser movie. That actually sounds pretty good. But also like, what?
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that there's also doing like ambient stuff like the Birth of Sandman, or the I think he was able to no, that would probably just be a separate thing where they have like the band playing
Well, yeah,
the
they did,
iconic
but
theme song.
yeah, but they did, like it says, he has more of a. There's a song I like to call the Guilt theme. It's kind of a variation of Sandman's theme, but you always hear it like you primarily hear it when Spider-Man is reliving in his mind how he thinks the murder of Uncle Ben went. It's like a rising note motif. You hear it happy during the "It's Me Again" motif in the opening, but then you hear a more twisted, sadder version of it when he's remembering Uncle Ben's death, and you hear a more like hyped up, you know, aggressive version of it when the black suit is attaching to him. It's those three notes. You know the notes I'm talking about, but it's a through line throughout the movie, in addition to the usual Danny Elfman themes.
And not only that, but we also had to have like themes that are references to the Goblin, but obviously more streamlined, considering the fact that Harry isn't trying to mimic what his dad was like, all theatricality and all that. But then there's also the much more uh, gothic, like really intense, like uh, ballast that is Venom.
Oh yeah, and then you got the very iconic. Like I love this theme every time I hear it. You got the bombastic, horn, triumphant but menacing theme of the black suit itself when Black Suit Spider-Man comes in. Like you get this
Oh
like
yeah,
tense, yeah, you get like this tense choir building, and they go silent. And then when you see the suit reveal, you get this triumphant horns, and you can't help but feel like I think a couple of us went like woo in the theater when he's on the mute reflection with that triumphant horn playing and shit. Like hell,
it always recalls whenever Pete's thinking about like putting the suit back on.
like
But like
I'm
I think I even noticed that like as it progressed, like the tone actually got a little bit more darker and darker as like he decides to just like embrace the like damn like inhibitions.
yeah, and then oh my gosh, another thing too. Uh, Even you can tell the different flavor because you get your usual Spider-Man 3, like the Spider-Man notes for the opening of Spider-Man 1, like the from 1 and 2 being played in the beginning of the opening. But then it does this whiplash because you hear like you're expecting like the next theme because in Spider-Man 2 it was Doc Ock's theme, and Spider-Man 1 was the Goblin's theme. But here, after that whole little ba 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 ba, then you get to this, the music just kicks up a notch, and then you get the horns, and you're like, well, shit, I'm really digging this. But that black suit theme is one of my favorite musical compositions in superhero mediums. And it's only used sparingly, which is probably why it lasts so long because it's only used for key moments. So, oh man, like I'm just thinking back, like he did it, but like I said, he has a lot of like wailing voices and horns, like the choirs go like like stuff like with the suits like coming down and like grabbing things. It's very like again almost a horror score at times, but it also has like enough moody like cute music like flute music and stuff for like MJ and Peter talking or for like Aunt May comforting Peter, stuff like that. I think they used a lot of like themes from like the Peter talks to Aunt May from Spider-Man 2 for the scene where she's recounting a lovely story with Ben. Like it's a great musical piece. But and then like I said, Venom has this very like bada bam bam very like inverse of the Spider-Man theme, and it's like it's very horror. Like it sounds very horrific. The music when the suit itself is lashing on the screaming Topher
Oh yeah,
Grace.
and it was after the very ethereal church bell scene.
Oh yeah, because they play the Spider-Man theme, but they sing it with choir, so they're going like wah 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 with the choir. Well, it is like the battle for his soul, and the more he gets off of him, the more you start hearing his band sing bada bam bam, like showing you Venom is coming.
But yeah, like even though we didn't have like a legend coming back to finish the whole thing, it is pretty good to know that like someone that was like in the know of like how he works, like taking his own little bit of spin on it, but also remembering to say, okay, I gotta remember like this is like the type of like composure that he would do. That now I'm just gonna add a little more flavor of what I do.
Oh yeah, and like I said, he was in Spider-Man 2, and he had some of those horror motifs too. Like when Doc Ock's machine turns on, it's like a very like horror movie song because it basically is his Hellraiser theme repurposed. Yeah, I sent Derek the blue light, which is what they call that scene when he turns on the machine, and I showed him the opening to Hellraiser 2's theme that Christopher Young composed. You're like, it's like that meme joke with the picture. Like, tell us the difference between these pictures. It's,
Same.
it's the same picture. Yeah. So then, oh my gosh. So okay, enough gushing with me. I think we should probably talk about. We talked about the trappings. Let's get into a little more meat. So we'll go ahead and start off with our first character on our roundup list. We have here. Oh well, I'm sure we had to start with this guy since he's one of the newest parts, which get people up to speed. Sandman, Flint Marko, played by Thomas Hayden Church, who you might know as the bad guy who falls in elephant poop, a classic staple of physical comedy. Now comes the part where we all throw our head back and laugh.
Ready? Ready?
What's funny? Derek made a very funny observation when he says like the cops are looking for you. You robbed a bank. You even killed a guy. And he got look. I shot at George. No, you say the joke. You say it funnier.
Look, I shoot at George in the jungle one time and everyone loses their shit.
I laughed. I actually laughed out loud during that serious scene. And that's the funny thing is that Sandman prior to this, in all the comics and whatever shows he appeared in, was always just just the bad guy, just the mean robber, just the common thug. Always smashing Spider-Man with the gleeful grin, and just he
And
used
wearing
his
that
sap.
like ugly striped top that even Freddy Krueger would look at. It's like, yeah, that's a little bit too much, man. But yeah, my first introduction to Sandman was through the video game, the Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, and the fact that he appears twice definitely like made a distinct memorability, especially considering the fact that the construction fights like would have been hard if you didn't take a moment to remember. Like, oh yeah, I'm in a construction site. What would actually be a construction site? Oh, I don't know, water.
Yeah, so it was just great that this is one of Sam's favorite bad guys because remember he grew up in the Ditko Ramita era, so a lot of that was those villains like Vulture, Sandman, like the Doc Ock. Those were his classic lineup. So imagine the joy for him to get the chance to bring one of his childhood villains to life in a new way.
And consider the fact that we were able to kind of go through like the usual top villains like Green Goblin and Doc Ock, and we're kind of going to a thug with like superpowers is essentially it's definitely like what one would think like looking at the paper, looking at it on a paper, it sounds like a step down, but when actually executed in the movie, it's actually different considering that Thomas plays him like not as like a gleeful like guy that's like out to just like make a ruckus and all the while just to cash in. No, they actually gave him like a sympathetic backstory
Well, I think his character can just be summed up by his line that he gives before he leaves. So I'm not a bad person.
Just to have a bad luck.
Yeah, and again, I heard that that both Sam and Thomas had them read the famous child story, the Golem, to get the idea for what they wanted to go for Sandman. Because it's funny because he's very sympathetic, but he also gets these horrific, almost like kaiju monster music motifs with him whenever he goes into Sand Rage mode.
Yeah, but consider the fact that I think when well, it would we're gonna get to it when we get to like his powers, but essentially like he's like only trying to do this just so that he can be able to pay for his sick daughter's surgery. But if that surgery is successful or not is always up in the air. But behind the scenes, they always like to say it. Yeah, it didn't work out. Although it kind of goes against what we learned in No Way Home. But look, going to ahead of ourselves bigger. But anyways, just like how many Spider villains you think had happened, once police chase happens, then they fall into a collider.
Yeah. So this is where, like in the original story, he was fleeing police and he ran into some sand that had just been exposed to radioactivity from an A-bomb test. So he just used the sand.
Because comic books.
Yeah, because I want to say this once because the Kool-Aid Man is red. But yeah,
here it's essentially like a science experiment that was testing
a collider.
Yeah, let's just go with that. But so it essentially like kind of causes the sand particles around him to have enter into his system and charge it into his DNA. And well, the first time he gets bombarded with it, he literally like breaks apart like bit by bit. It's like the fact that if you were just kind of step back and didn't think like it was just kind of like a superhero villain origin, you would look at it and go like, "Sheesh, that's the worst way for a guy to go out."
Oh yeah, like he's screaming until he can't scream no more, and it's like, yeah,
it's graphic without being the graphic.
Like, yeah, Sam Raimi excels at that kind of thing.
But then we get to the scene that everybody, everywhere, like detractors and lovers everywhere, will come to agreement and say, "That's nice."
That's beautiful. By the way, that Michael Rosenbein has been going around so much. I'm loving it every time I see it. Damn it! But yeah, this scene.
Wait, they framed it. It's almost kind of like a short film. Like even Nostalgia Critic says, like if they were to take this whole scene out and make it as a short film, it would probably win fucking Oscars. It is so ethereal, so slow, so beautiful. It also is kind of like a huge high mark for the animators to actually pull off doing sand particles. As I said, doing CGI sand is not really an easy task, especially considering the fact that there's so many different like types of sands. Like what we're talking about here, we talk about like hourglass sand. We talk like a more dusty like dune sand. But then they decided to kind of go with a more like a grainier like rocky sand.
This is gonna sound kind of stupid, but I'm gonna say the stupid phrase. I don't think if it were not for Sandman doing so well, we would be getting the effects we saw in Dune, which has come a long way depicting sand.
Yep.
Weird to say, but I'm gonna stand by saying that.
But it's essentially like a somber kind of like it's kind of almost kind of like Sam kind of apologizing people to put them through the ringer of the horror scene of like essentially the birth of Doc Ock when the tentacles attack, which also that one is kind of in a way kind of like a shorts on its own.
Oh yeah, but you're
here
right.
it's kind of like a story of like a figure trying to emerge from like this mound of sand and trying to like form himself together and try to like focus to actually make himself feel whole again.
Oh my god! And like I says, you almost want to cry watching the scene, not because it's sad, but it's just so much emotion into it. So much soul. That's the Sam Raimi we know.
It's like, remember how Flint Marco says, like, I just had bad luck? It's like, well, you can't really top off past the point of, like, getting yourself exposed to something that causes your entire body to just be made up entirely of sand.
And you got to concentrate to even hold together. Like, there's no dialogue. It's just all told through the music and through the gestures. It's just, again, oh my God, this
And
scene.
I think the moment where it actually sold people was when he sees the locket of his daughter, which is somehow not affected by this. But I'm just gonna right off saying, like, okay, maybe it flew out, like, of Flint's possession when, like, the collider was going so fast and wasn't in the
Remember,
middle of all that.
he took a hit when he tried to run out of the beam, so maybe it flew out of his pocket when that happened.
But it's the only thing that's not affected. And he reaches out and, like, normally a person like that weak would probably try to slide it through him, but as his hand, like, goes against it, it parts away from it. Literally, the lock is still there, and his hand is breaking apart. You can actually see the small, tiny, individual grains, like, part away, like the freaking Red Sea. It's like so sad, right? But he decides to, like, really, really focus so that he'd actually form an actual hand to actually delicately pick it up forcefully. And it's like,
Right.
that's the moment where he's like, yep, I'm definitely buying that this guy is made of sand and he can do whatever he can to keep himself together.
Yeah, and then that scene, yeah. What's funny though is that it is still like very beautiful and native like, but it ends on like almost like a horror monster trope. Like he's moving around like Frankenstein with with those lumbering horns coming in.
Oh yeah, the fact that they were able to transition from, like, the CG, like, really good sandy model of him to, like, hey, there's Thomas Hayden there.
I love how when he walks, his first step, he takes one, two step, and his leg like collapses. Then he kind of repairs it. It's just, again, little details like that.
But as the movie progresses, you kind of get hints that he's kind of almost losing himself a bit to it. He's obviously, like, having to go through, like, all this rigmarole. He's still having to deal with, like, Spider-Man of all
And the
things,
cops.
and the cops, and then, like, really realize, like, holy shit, I can grow myself, like, 3 times my size with, like, more sand around. But even that kind of is a little bit of a detriment because it kind of gets a little bit of a monstrous kaiju thing, and even at the point you realize, like, oh yeah, I can fly as a cloud of sand, which, like, I have no idea, like, how he's able to, like,
Propel himself like
focus,
that.
or even, like, keep himself, like, mentally stable to fly as that.
But oh yeah, and
And like, it's even worse when he's, like, a giant, huge, colossal construction golem thing, and he's just, like, making grunting, large, rumbling monster noises. And he's not even making a human speech. And
yeah,
it's at a point where you realize, like, even though he has, like, a mission to, like, focus on uh saving his daughter, like, it that seems to be, like, the only thing that's pushing it. But even then, like, there might be a fleeting thought from us, like, maybe, like, what if she's already expired before I actually even got to her.
and he would be so mad. So he'd lash out against the world for denying him.
But yeah, no, Thomas is able to pull, like, I'm sure a lot of internet people will, like, joke at his, like, stoic face. He's don't get that much of emotions, but to me, I think, like, Sam chose to consider the fact that most of the time he has to keep himself looking human. So maybe that faces him, like, actually trying to put focus in every single step, because you can't, like, uh lose focus. Because even, like, as he's walking through New York, he has to, like, dip his head over, and, like, pockets of sand will fall out of his ear.
Let's.
Like, you can't focus on everything.
What's great is he has this look of pain all the time. Like he's like I said, kind of like Frankenstein's monster. And what I like is that there's that look, great face acting on his face when he's kind of annoyed at Spider-Man taunting him until he tells him, "Remember Ben Parker." And there's this look on his face where he's actually living. He's like, "No, no." Then yeah, that has nothing to do with it. Wasn't matter to you anyway when he attacks him. But I just love that the small face acting on Thomas's face before he does that line of "What does it matter to you?" Because it just shows you that he's
Like it,
that
so it turns out in the end, like he didn't actually intend to shoot Ben. It was like a tense in the moment freak accident, like a hair trigger on that gun after like his cohort like bumps into him whenever like at the moment. He says he's been nervous. He's like just like Ben was almost like getting him to be coerced to like just like put the gun away and just walk home.
and then his buddy shows up and whoop, and even I love the acting on Sam's face, on Thomas's face when he shoots Ben. He has this ultimate like no, like I didn't mean to shoot you type thing. But even Ben didn't seem too hurt by. I mean, he was shot, but he didn't seem like he. It's almost like he didn't judge Flint for pulling the trigger.
Most of his Ben Parker's faces were focused on like, oh God, I'm gonna die before I even get a chance to like make amends with my nephew.
Yeah. So yeah, but and like I says, and even Dennis offers him to get in here, and he doesn't say that. He just takes off without him. So that still maintains that Spider-Man's in action still led to the death of Uncle Ben. So that's still maintained. But people thought, oh, well, this changes everything if he's the actual killer, but it
But
actually
no, it oh no, now I realize like if Peter did stop him, like Sandman wouldn't have like shot Ben. Maybe you have like had time to actually like really focus. Like, you're right. You're right. Like, what am I doing? I need to just get back to my family and just make do with what time I have left.
exactly. So that's why it's a big deal when Peter tells him he forgives Sandman for what he did. Even he said, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I mean none of this, but yeah, it happened this way." And then that's why he's allowed to go. But we kind of jokingly say, so where is he going after this? After Spider-Man says he forgives him and he kind of just whisks away.
I don't know. I guess maybe the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But
So
we all know where he actually ends up.
yeah. What's interesting though is that there are so many concepts that involve the daughter more. Like there's a alternate cut, the editor's cut. And one scene that is very famous that shows up is after he reconstitutes himself from the near death from Spider-Man drowning him. He decides to pay a visit to Penny, but not in a way because the cops are still looking for him. So obviously, his wife wouldn't let him anywhere near her. So she's like in the park feeding pigeons, and there's like a sandbox nearby. And then when she turns around, there's like this big ass, beautiful, intricate sandcastle, a practical sandcastle, mind you. They actually built this thing, and she looks all in amaze. And they're playing Sandman's birth theme while this is going on. So she's pretty happy about it, and she kind of just puts a hand against the castle and says, "Penny, you got to go." Then her hand mark is still left there, and an even bigger hand mark goes around it to show you that yeah, that's still motivating him. Penny was supposed to play a bigger part in the final stint of things, in which part of the reason why Sandman went along with Venom's plan to kill Spider-Man is because, uh, his daughter was also at risk, or other versions had him like holding up the one doctor who knew her condition and basically telling him, throwing him money in his way and saying, "You can fix her, and you could need more than this. I can get more." And the guy doesn't have the heart to explain to him. So at the very, very end, he explains to him that she actually says that he doesn't want him to hurt Spider-Man no more or do hurt people no more and everything like that. And then he admits that the condition is terminal. There's really nothing any medicine or money can do. So Sandman realizes that he's going for a fruitless cause there, and that what he should be focusing on is spending what time he has left with his daughter before the inevitable. So that's kind of what that script arc went. It went through many revisions.
But yeah, in the end, the Sam was able to at least accomplish to actually make like Sandman threatening, but also like understandable due to the fact that we actually get to see like his daughter in the weak state that she is, but also see that like even like apart from the Penny being sick, like it really didn't seem like he and his wife had like a happy like union.
Oh yeah. So, but I like how she's not the jerk and all. Usually when you try to do like split person, you always have like the one obvious. Oh, there's the asshole in the relationship, but no one's the bad guy here. It's just bad circumstances.
But yeah, no, it's good job on Sam making a no name named thug into like a sympathetic bad guy, which is his
And
kind of from the beginning.
And if you're more used to that, don't worry. There is a lot more games like Across the Spider-Verse or Edge of Time that actually have a Spider-Man boss, or even the Spectacular Spider-Man does a convincing job of making the small-time crook Marco, just a guy who does this for kicks, and he gets
Oh yeah, the King Samuel reigns supreme.
Yeah, and voiced wonderfully by Joe DiMaggio. I love his voice, Bender's voice. Who do you think you're dealing with, Flint Marco? I'm the Sandman. Yeah. Got so many B-list bad guys got such good treatment in Spectacular Spider-Man. I know we're doing only the movies, but part of me is almost tempted to just have a whole episode aside just to talk about Spectacular. Maybe on a future live ramble we can talk about maybe an anniversary for Spectacular. We could do that. I have the whole series.
Speaking of Spectacular, that actually brings us to talking about the Stacys that are introduced into this movie. Well, talk about the Stacy family this late in the game. So, yeah, everyone knows the infamous the night Gwen Stacy died.
That's when comic books changed forever, if you ask any comic historian.
So of course they realized well, we gotta actually have the Gwen Stacy rep involved, and that's it. Moving on.
But yeah, like hell, one of the Spider-Man's most famous failings in the comic, besides the death of Gwen, is the failure to protect George Stacy, who is Captain Stacy, and we were surprised to see him in this movie portrayed by the great James Cromwell, who you might best know as Farmer Hoggett. That'll do, pig. Is
Or the guy from the Star Trek First Contact.
that from
Live
Cochrane?
long and prosper.
Handshake.
Yeah.
Or if you're really obscure as the corrupt senator in Species whose son ended up being invented by the alien and in Species 2 and talked about how he knows the cost of going after a hot piece of ass.
Okay then.
Yeah, or last one, the doctor that was murdered by Alan Tudyk in iRobot for reasons to protect, humanity and everything. But I always loved his thing of why would you kill yourself? That detective is the right question. Love James Cromwell. So I remember when the movie was being announced and they casted Cromwell and Bryce Dallas Howard as Gwen. There was a Deadpool actually in one of the magazines that was who has the chances of dying in Spider-Man 3? They put Aunt May. She had low odds, but they say it's typical in the comic for that to happen. They had low odds for MJ, but they say it would possibly happen. Spider-Man actually had decent odds because they say this is the concluding trilogy. Who knows? Harry definitely had high odds. But what's funny is they put middling odds on Captain Stacy and Gwen, saying given their comic history, there's a good chance that they might surprise us by picking out one of them.
Hey, let me guess. Venom had the higher one.
Venom wasn't even on the list, man.
What?
I didn't think they thought that they would kill Venom in his first outing.
Clearly, you haven't been around the superhero movie game, guys.
Yeah, but it was so funny. I remember that. But I remember the Stacys were on this Deadpool of characters that have a chance of dying in Spider-Man 3. And now, like it says, they had middling odds for Spider-Man, but it says, yeah, you might be shocked that we're putting Spider-Man on this list, but like I said, if they wanted to be brave, they could try killing their lead. But the Stacys is a big deal for comic book fans because, like I said, yeah, Captain George Stacy is a big deal. And then Gwen, she hated Spider-Man for a while, blaming him for failing to save her father, but she loves Peter, so there's that fun dichotomy in the comics. So we thought we could probably introduce that. And like I say, the Bryce Dallas Howard as Gwen is adorable. But then again, I think Bryce Dallas is adorable in general, whether she's a director or playing a racially charged woman in The Help or running away from dinosaurs in Jurassic World. Bryce is amazing.
But yeah, it's really kind of funny that when we started this movie, we had a blonde donning a red hair wig, and now we have a redhead donning a blonde wig.
Yeah, I think they actually they make a joke about that. I think the fact that actually did happen. Like I think Derek remarked during our thing, you think that is because Kirsten Dunst actually did dye her hair properly red instead of wearing a wig for MJ in this one.
Well, yeah, she already been in the 2 movies and thought, well, it's gonna happen in the 3rd movie, so I might as well just get a head start anyways.
And then I think we have Bryce here having to do, and I think maybe it was kind of funny that this happened to Bryce. And like this, I mean, it's hard. The Howards are known for their red hair. I mean, look at Ron Howard. He was like, when he was in TV acting, he was known for his red head of hair. For crying out loud, he was that dopey red-haired kid in American Graffiti.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny to see them here, and so it might be shocking for comic book fans to see people as important as the Stacys kind of just
They're there,
and then they're not.
Well, okay, they do contribute to at least two things. One is Captain Stacy delivering the whole retcon of like, so yeah, we kind of been sitting on the truth about your uncle's actual killer. We kind of didn't bring it up because we were kind of embarrassed because it ended up being between the seat cushions. So our bad.
Oh, come on. Like cops embarrassed to show something because it makes them look bad? What world does this happen in? Sorry, but yeah. Yeah, so hell, because Peter rightfully gets mad at him for the whole, you telling me this has been going on for 2 years? And he tells him to calm down, like, oh no, no,
They
no.
killed my uncle, and he's still out there.
And oh man, but yeah, but like I said though, I do love his introduction when Captain Stacy goes to the crane emergency, and you got Eddie Brock introducing himself. I love this whole, who are you? Because he seems to know Gwen before he has a chance to.
Hey, Brock, we're talking for the Daily Bugle, and I'm also dating your daughter.
Hi, Dad. But yeah, like I said though, what amuses me is in the bloopers. For some reason, James Cromwell had a very hard time saying Flint Marco's a small-time crook, because he kept on misspeaking. Like, this is Flint Marco, a small-time cook. He'd stop himself every time.
Well, at least he wouldn't be the hardest one to get a goddamn line right.
Oh my god, you know the one I'm talking about. I'm not even going to spoil that line. I might actually end up using that as the end credit stinger for this whole episode.
But yeah. So yep. The only other important thing. Well, actually, to be fair, Red does actually serve a purpose. He's kind of there to cause Mary Jane to have worrying doubts that Peter might be going like untruthful for her, which screw you. He's literally like almost had like a existential crisis because you're just literally just on a dime just going to like bury some schmuck that you met.
I'm gonna have to defer to MJ on this one. It does seem a little, because, I mean, he never mentioned her before. That, oh, just a girl in my class, but she seems to be very like, taken like, oh wow, he's actually a pretty smart, wonderful dude. And then the Spider-Man thing happens, and like anybody who gets saved by Spider-Man, it kind of is that little, oh my gosh, I'm swooning for him. But I don't think.
But then there's the fact that not only did she set up a huge parade and party just to give him the goddamn key to the city, but then she has him making the upside down kiss that
Like, oh, come on, Peter. What the hell, Peter? Even you said, okay, Peter. What the hell? I know there was the crowd and everything, but I think that's why they make that joke.
He could have at least signaled like on the side of his like cheek there.
Yeah, like I think that's why the Into the Spider-Verse had that running joke of every time someone forcibly reused the mask, they always go, that's a no-no. Because that's what I said when they kissed him. He's like, go ahead, later. I think he probably was thinking, oh, she's gonna give me a little peck and it look cute it would look cute for the poster. But no, she does the full bloated, take the mask halfway down, and
but then he doesn't fight it because obviously they kind of make it look like an asshole.
It's just
it already does when like his girlfriend is watching it like across the stands.
And even she said that was our kiss. You should know how that made me feel. But he's thinking, no, well, just a girl in my class, and that was in the moment. But no, that was him being high on himself with the whole, the city's loving him, everything's going good for change. He thought, oh yeah, do I deserve this? And he thought maybe he even earned a little bit of a peck from the cute girl in class and everything that, and he could still keep his thing with MJ. He's pretty much thinking he could, get on with it. I mean, not go too far, but point is, he's just thinking he thought nothing of it, and that goes with his complicating things. I don't think it's that simple.
Look, Pete, like unless the other girl is Felicia Hardy, MJ is not gonna stand for it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh god, imagine if Black Cat was in this movie and there was a three-way love triangle going on.
We already did that with the Spider-Man 2 game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot. And let's not forget there's that hilarious, infamous comic book panel story where she does kiss Spider-Man and she finds out later he's a young Peter Parker and she's thinking, "Good God, she's falling for a kid, basically."
Oh god, I committed adultery! That seems one thing, but this? I'm gonna have
Uh,
to, like, seek religion after this.
yeah, wrong. Yeah, not the proper word, but I'll let that one go because I don't want to get this video in more trouble anyway. But yeah, so yeah, Gwen only serves to kind of be a bit of a foil to MJ and to provide temptation for Parker. Like I said, that trailer again. When you saw that teaser, there's a bit where you see MJ on the floor and then you see Peter doing the bowing moves to MJ to Gwen in a dance. You're going, whoa, what's that about?
But, like, even when Gwen realizes that, like, the whole, like, dancing that everyone knows, now dig on this, oh goodness. But to be fair, I'm just gonna be one person and kind of, like, be in defense and say, like, yep, as, like, embarrassing as it looks, you gotta give it credit to Toby for actually, like, learning these goddamn moves.
On top of that, the audience in the jazz club did seem to be getting a kick out of this show. Like, wow, this guy's got energy. He's really livening the place up. They're not going, look at that idiot.
Certainly the first, like, positive response to, like, Peter, like, acting like a doof.
Oh yeah, because during his montage, you got a part where other girls look on the street like, look at that guy.
Which also I had to immediately think, like, the first few shots they do it, they, like, crack a smile when Toby does, like, something so corny. It's like, and Sam goes, cut, no, that's not the reaction we're looking for. It's the actual opposite. Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many bloopers of them like thinking, oh, how cute, Toby. No, you're not supposed to be thinking he's cute. You're supposed to think he's weird. Again.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
when Gwen realizes that she's kind of just been, like,
used.
yeah, a little trophy piece, she just kind of, like, apologizes up and down to MJ and leaves. Never to be seen in the rest of the film again
Until
until
the
the
funeral.
obvious cameo in the funeral.
But yeah.
But
But yeah.
then she's kind of sitting there going, like, oh my god, I'm not the first one to die in this movie.
Don't
Krillin,
worry, give it
too
time.
soon.
Give it time, give it time. And keep in mind, this is Gwen before her big resurgence of popularity in the mid 2000s that led to the eventual creation of Spider Gwen, who is, oh god, when we get to Spider Gwen, I just you wait. But
And
yeah,
now I'm sitting here wondering, it's like, do you think Bryce Dallas Howard would love to get suited up in the Spider-Man outfit?
if they could find a suit that'll contain the, I mean, I'm kidding.
Oh,
There was a
anyways,
in Jurassic World watch along, I kind of made an observation. Derek saying, dude, there's dinosaurs being gassed, and you're
hey,
focusing on the
down, boy.
exactly. That's his exact reaction. Okay, but yeah, so that was
Let's just
Bryce.
move over to Aunt May. She's here poignant, although she almost got undercut heavily by the editor's cut, which I haven't actually seen.
But yeah, well, because I think they actually had to reshoot more scenes with Aunt May. Because I think even Sam realized, well, crap, because she only had 2 whole scenes in the initial cut where there's this. I mean, there's 3 full scenes that she has in the original in the cut before the theatrical cut. We have
When Pierre goes to say, like, "Hey, I'm gonna propose to MJ," and then
and then the
scene
police
where
scene.
they find out, it's like, "Oh my God, Uncle Ben's killer is still on the loose all this time."
I love her whole "will you put these photos away" distressed thing she gets. She really sells that moment.
And then, of course, when Pierre explains, like,
Oh,
how
how Spider-Man killed somebody with joy, like he killed him, like. And even
what
she's thinking,
Spider-Man doesn't kill.
and then I had to make that joke of this is a world of heroes and villains, and heroes don't kill.
I do.
And the rocks all I do. But yeah. The thing is that and they have in the theatrical cut one more scene that I think was an additional scene because they realized, well, we needed this because she's the moral center without Uncle Ben. So
It was literally after Pierre's really strenuous, well, let's just call it divorce from his black suit.
Yeah, and she says, I think some of the most Aunt May advice ever. So like when he admits that he thought he doesn't deserve the ring because he says, I hurt her. But well, you gotta do the hardest thing. You gotta forgive yourself.
Yourself.
And that sounds like the kind of advice Uncle Ben would give if he was still around and he screwed up like that.
Yeah.
But but yeah, like she's the one that's telling Peter, hey, listen, marriage is a big deal. You know, a man has to learn to put himself before his wife. That's the you're living for one another. And I love how Peter still does a whole I think I can do this rather than a more because no one can be sure, but I like how he's naive or cocky enough to think,
Like even
yeah,
she admits like she wasn't ready for marriage to Ben like from the get go, and like Ben just kind of like dejectedly said like, okay, I understand. Maybe this was too soon. Let
eventually they
we,
found the right
we still
time.
keep going at the very least.
Yeah, well, it's funny though. I can't. I know he groans every time I bring it up. I keep saying, "Have you read Trouble?" Like, no, no.
Ugh,
Yeah,
please don't bring that up. Oh God. Oh
there's one other movie where I'm obligated to bring it up because the line itself begs bringing it up.
no, God, this is the next one. Oh shit.
Back to back, huh? Kind of like
But yeah,
A and I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, definitely give big props to Rosemary for being a trooper throughout this entire trilogy
Oh
because
my god! But there's just again, she has one. If she only had one scene and it was the blessing scene, it still would have been worth it because she gives a very great. Like you can't help but go. It's almost sickly sweet, honey sweet when she's giving her recollection of when Uncle Ben proposed to her, and you going, oh my god! It just and then the emotion she goes through. Like there's a part where she's like nearly breaking down because she says, "Oh, we could have been married 50 years if it wasn't for." And then she goes back to turning around, thankfully. But that one moment, it just shows you what a masterclass actor, like someone like Rosemary, is with that kind of experience.
the yeah, give major props for Rosemary for this one and for sticking to it and actually delivering a very empathetic Aunt May character.
Yeah, because they could have easily written her off at this point, or it could have been like, oh, obligatory Aunt May cameo, but they still kept her a staple in Peter's life. And like I said, she's the one that does give the warning of revenge can poison you, turn you into something really ugly before you know, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's epitomized by the suit. So again, she does a good job with there, and I mean, I wish we had more to say about her, but you know,
I,
Aunt May
I
is gonna
I'm honestly just glad that like Peter's dark half didn't like
show
act
in front of
on
her.
Aunt May.
Oh
Because
my
like
god.
if that had happened, like any empathy to like this movie would have just gone shot out the window.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I mean, yeah.
It's like you do not hurt Aunt May.
So yeah, so I'm surprised that the hipster with the skateboard kind of got away with making Aunt May cry at times, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh shit! Oh, sorry, something almost fell over here. Kitty. Okay, everything's under control. Oh, speaking of guys who are still here, let's go ahead and talk about our everyone's favorite hardy tardy.
J. Jonah Jameson played by J.K. Goddamn lemon burning down houses Simmons.
Who can probably do this in his sleep at this point because he's really good, but he doesn't seem like he's ever phoning it in, at least.
Although this is definitely quite the stark contrast for what we usually see. He's usually like up and down, barking down in the offices, but I guess not only is the good press of Spidey going around, but I guess the fact that not everyone is reading the Daily Bugle lately to the point where they're trying to come up with new catchy catchphrases. It probably put anyone to having like yeah. Well, there's also that in the fact that like the entire wedding that you've been prepping for like I don't know the last month or so kind of just went out the door with the runaway bride.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
It's got to the point where he has to like really keep his blood pressure down. And like
But yeah,
JK has to do like the most hardest thing he could ever do. Play a
not
toned
yell.
down version of himself.
Yeah, he had to not yell, which I'm sure, like, come on, like, yelling is like J.K. Jonah Jameson's default position. You can't not yell. That's like asking a lion to not roar. Funny enough, he played Mayor Lionheart in Zootopia. I didn't mean to set up that lion thing, but here we are.
But yeah, with that blood pressure thing going, it leads to some members of the Bugle to kind of like get a little bit of comeuppance revenge on Jameson, kind of like, barking on them left and right with the Brant having the most world's loudest like buzzer, like
It shakes the whole desk, man.
it if you think about it, it's almost kind of like a shock therapy, only without the actual
Yeah,
shocks.
like a shock collar for a dog.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
not that one, not that one.
it's what.
Yeah.
I mean, not so, I mean, even Derek's all. She's so doing that on purpose, isn't she?
Oh, maliciously.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, and I love the funny part though, and just because he's toned down doesn't mean he's not classic fire brimstone J. Jonah. Like I love that bit when he's all like,
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Get out of here.
"You've had some doozies," and I love that bit too with the. I love that bit, but I laugh at every time. Is when there's just this is another point of conflict for Peter is he's competing with Brock for a staff job. And it's funny part when he says like, "Oh yeah, we have an opening. Bernard Johnson quit last week." No, you didn't quit. You fired him. Mm-hmm.
Job opening still.
But what's great though is that we know how much Jay Jonah likes to yell out, "You're fired," and he usually says it with either with Glee or with the we know that when he sips it, but here when he said "You're fired" to hear when Brock's scumminess comes forward, oh
yeah,
god.
Oh yes, this is the moment where it's like it's a stark like difference where he was like telling people or fires mostly just to get like a reaction so that they can actually focus on what he wants them to do. But here it's like you can definitely tell like there's like this like seething burn up. Like this is the man that's like just been cut. Like yeah, he's put out like libel like headlines out there, but he has never tried to twist pictures.
So
just to get a story.
Yeah, he was.
And the lengths that Brock really went against like the old like true boots to the ground core roots of the
journalism
business.
Yeah.
So, really just says like, pack your bags, get out of here.
Yeah, and like we says, we like just I think that's more colder than him doing a big old rah rah you're fired. It was just that pack your bag. You're like shit, man. That's how you know it was serious. When he said when he doesn't seem like he's getting a kick out of firing someone, you messed up.
The worst part is he had to make a retraction. I have a print retraction in 20 years.
Yeah. So and of course he still gets one more final like comedic moment where this great final battle is happening and none of his photographers, Brock or Parker, are on standby. So he tells the nearby kid, played by Sam Raimi's daughter, about having a job. I mean, she's a kid, so she's going, just you're gonna.
Why would I need a job?
So he goes, okay, how much you want the camera? She wants $100 for a camera plus extra.
$100.
But I love how the film's not in there, and he's still like, even though he's grumbling about this, he's still willing to pay out the money. He's willing to put his money where his mouth is so he can get pictures of Spider-Man in action. Because he knows Spider-Man sells at the Bugle.
And then sadly, that's the last we see of J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson. For the moment.
But oh my god, I love that look of the hat and the coat he has because I think that look comes back in like some of the comics and stuff. Actually, it reminds me of the look he had in the '60s Spider-Man. Like, which one pointed first?
Spider-Man did it, obviously.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh my god, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But anyway, so that's J.K. Simmons and J. Jonah Jameson, and I think some people might have felt a little let down if that was the last time we would see him that way. But well, again, hey, if you want more hammy acting of J.K. Simmons, you can go ahead and pop in the HD Spider-Man game and talk about the giant lizards in New York.
Giant lizards
with exaggerated wavy hand motions.
Yeah, so not only we do have another returning alumni. We have Bruce Campbell doing another cameo portrayal as a Frenchman.
Maître D.
As he's one to constantly remind people to say, "I am French."
I am French indeed, oui, and that's a pecker. Yeah, and I thought it'd be very funny if Peter pointed out how he reminded him of the Usher. But again, I love how it's a funny moment when it could be considered an over the top French accent, but I find it hilarious. Oh, hello.
And across the entire scene, he like keeps mistaking like Peter's hand wave as the signal to bring forth the proposal ring. It's notice it like, oh, what are you doing here, you imbecile? Get out here!
Yeah, and then another character of note, I mean, not really a character, but a lovable cameo from our wonderful cameo masters and creator of Spider-Man is his most substantial cameo at that time. Stan Lee as in his New York bystander who came out with the line we opened up where,
Let's just say that that's Stanley playing Stanley there.
yeah, what's funny, Stan Lee, like we mentioned, has appeared in the other Spider-Man movies as usually the guy who happens to get someone out of the nick of time from some falling debris or some other danger.
Originally, he was supposed to be there to sell sunglasses in the first movie.
They wore
Like
these
a
in the X-Men.
cheeky X-Men ref. But here he actually gets to have a speaking role to his most iconic creation. It's like even he like admits like it was kind of like a really important deal, especially considering the fact that he's doing the scene in New York. This is kind of his alma mater essentially. Like,
Yeah,
and he's
and
filming a scene with the Spider-Man next to him.
yeah, because yeah, in the other cameos, he wasn't the next Spider-Man. I think, and I think this was his most substantial cameo compared to like say his cameos in the MC.
But no, again, it like I've seen like behind much more behind the scenes photos of like how Stanley's like sunglasses, like he was like motioning to Peter Parker like, hey Sonny, how about you like these? They wore them in the X-Men.
And then of course, he always had a funny walk-on cameo. Like there he is coming out of the Incredible Hulk lab, with Eric Bana talking about how, and then they get hit by gamma rays and become like he's basically pitching the Fantastic Four to somebody. And then of course he was the mailman in the Fantastic Four movies. Like, but I think it was Spider-Man 3 that started his first like him standing for more than a frame in a cameo. I think, and then the MCU really took that to heart. So then
It's
another
short,
character.
sweet, but it definitely like really hits that Spidey's finally hit the big time to get the key of the city. We're filming in New York, and Stanley gets to stand next to the man that's actually been like hammered in as the ultimate portrayal of the iconic hero that he's like written years ago.
Oh, and another character of note we love, and she's minor, but I love seeing her again. Is Mr. Dikovich's daughter Ursula? Oh my God, why is she so cute in this movie?
Even to the point that she does that period era thing, like she's always excited to have, like, like even though she like obviously Mr. Chance, she's like still gung ho to play the little Cupid messenger.
Yeah, and of course, even she notices Spider-Man is, I mean, Peter's a little unusual when he yells about the door, and she said that's not cool. But yeah, but she doesn't hold no ill will.
You know what? She actually it's to see like what other characters haven't been able to do. Like she actually beats the door down.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then, oh my God, well, yeah, she's so cute. And Diktovich, of course, is funny. I love the editor's cut reduces a lot of his scenes. It just has that the door scene, but I love that bit when he's all like, "I understand though. Just it's if he's trying to girl you want to get, just say you good woman."
I'm a good man.
Like he keeps it that simple. Like it's not that simple. Yeah.
I
And
don't
it's
know. You keep mentioning all these cuts to the editor cut, and I'm sitting here going like, well, it has that nice sandcastle scene, but I don't know. It feels like I'm missing like a lot of like
well, they cut a
competent
lot.
story making here.
Well, I mean, I gotta show it to you so you understand what it is, because it does go in a slightly different. Like, I'll explain that when we get to different cuts in the end of this talk. But oh my gosh, and then another side character that leaves an impression is well, this guy is infamous for everybody. Is Bill Paxton's father, John Paxton, as Bernard, the loyal butler to the Osborns. Oh, and we'll get to him when we talk about Harry's scene, but he is infamous for one moment in particular. It's been spoofed so many times since it happened, but he's still pleasant. I think he's sweet. Like I love the bit when he's telling him like get some food, we have company coming. A guest, sure. Like a
A
guest.
guest.
Yeah.
Anyway, sure.
And oh my God, and all the bloopers when he messes up his lines, he plays it up so well. It's so cute.
But we also have Dr. Kurt Connors, who's at least able here to explain like not the true origins of black material, but it does at least note that it does have properties of a symbiote.
Yeah,
and it's a very aggressive little sucker.
yeah.
Even
Hell,
notice that
even
like notices how it's like really kind of like has a thing to go latching towards Peter.
yeah, hell. But I like though is that he says I'm not a biologist. I'm like, but, uh,
But
uh,
I mean, you're the
the
I
lizard.
oh, I think that was a point where you could definitely tell that Sam wasn't even prepared to even do the whole lizard thing.
Yeah, but maybe the symbiote encouraged him to think of maybe I should find a solution there. But what's funny though is how in the comics it was Mr. Smartest man in the world, Mr. Reed Richards, who discovers, hey, you know that thing you're wearing is actually alive, right? What?
Yeah, but we didn't have John Krasinski at that time, so
Or Ian Grufford was there because he did do hell. They were having Rise of the Silver Surfer come out that same year too. Shit, 2007 was a jam-packed year, man.
oh yeah, I forgot the movie was actually a thing.
It's not that bad, man. I kind of like it. It's kind of cute. And yeah, you got pre Captain America Chris Evans being his Chris Evaniest in that thing.
But
Uh, and then
anyways,
another side character of note, I think that shows up is did we mention everybody?
uh, pretty much, I guess.
Everybody who actually had a contributing part, yeah. Oh, and then we have because the another guy who you might accuse of being a cameo, but he is important to the story, Eddie Edward Brock Jr., played by Topher Grace. You might know as Foreman from That 70s Show.
Oh great, so he's gonna phone this movie in.
Oh no, he didn't phone it in. No, in fact, hell, he was totally surprised that they even contacted him. He's like, "Oh, you want me Spider-Man? Oh yeah, what's the character I'm playing? This, that." And he goes, "Are you sure you want me for this character? Like, because uh, he is a young guy, so obviously he must have been like our age when like the Venom started coming around. So it's him to think you want me to play that guy, and he says, "Well, we want you to play basically like a bizarro mirror version of Parker, and that's like a dark side of the version." And then okay, he went with that direction, and I think he's just awesome. Now the reason Derek made that phoning in joke was because well the game was infamous for I think it was his first time doing voice work for a game, and they just gave him directions of you just say your lines in a mic. They don't really give him footage to react to, so of course he kind of has to play it. So you have him talking about I got cameras everywhere, like if he's being a smug son of a bitch, but you got
And
his
then
mom.
all
His
while
mom
his animation is like making all these like long, grandiose, like J.J. Jason giant lizard poses.
and you're going, yeah, that's clearly a case of the directing and audio people were not on the same page as the animators, because
It's
that's
like,
what
but you gotta like talk about the video game for a second. But you gotta wonder, it's like, what? Who at Treyarch thinks like the way they're doing it here is better than how they handled it in part two?
they have no, they're under the wire for a lot of stuff, but yeah. I still love it when they told them when they put Topher inside the scan, and this is the scan we're going to use to make the action figure. And he's like, oh, action figures, I'm getting action figures now. But oh man, so it's funny is his Eddie is dressed and looks a lot like the way Eddie was portrayed in the Ultimate series, where he was the green coat and everything like that. And he did have to bulk up a little just for the but and when people think Eddie Brock from the cartoons and the comics, they think Arnold Schwarzenegger hulking guile man, and then you got little Foreman. You're waiting for Kurtwood Smith to come up and tell him that he's going to stick his foot up his ass at any point. Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm not hating on his portrayal of Eddie Brock. He's like, it's great if we were just kind of sticking to that. But then you also have to remember that, oh yeah, he becomes the character that everyone like has been paying tickets for to see.
Especially if you're Avi Arad.
Who went out of his way to make a goddamn like trailer that's literally all about like, hey, look, we're building up to Venom. We're gonna have Venom say, Sam it. Forget about that. We're not talking about him.
Like
I'm
Venom.
I'm almost convinced that he actually edited that trailer just when Sam said like, okay, I had my trailer. Maybe you can go out and spoil the damn movie all you want. I don't care.
But oh my gosh. Yeah, like I said, yeah, the when you actually get to Venom, it's very funny how there were figures, there were statues, all kinds of stuff made of of Venom, so we know what's he gonna look like. Because everyone has their idea of what Venom should look like. Because you have so many portrayals in the comics and in the thing, and you get this, this kind of warped version of Spider-Man with teeth and a screech, a bat out of hell screech.
But then you also kind of step back and go, like, wait, there's something kind of off about this Venom. I can't put my finger on it. And then you realize that Eddie's just kind of been talking in the singular pronouns.
Oh
And you go,
God.
what?
No, well, Venom kind of didn't do the we thing till a little later in defense of the of that choice.
But it's like, you have to remember that this is the character of Venom is literally the combination of two entities that have a seething hatred of this, like, one guy that's like screwed to both of them, one that like completely screwed them out of life, and the other screwed them out of like a good deal that they were having with like being like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, but I'm sorry for bursting out laughing, but I can't repeat the joke here, but there is a funny joke about why Venom insists on using pronouns.
Parker, use the use of the we, them, they
It's not because
pronouns.
we're
It's not because
non-binary,
we are
because we're
binary,
literally two
but because
guys.
we are fucking two people.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed hard the first time I heard that video. But yeah. Yeah, so but yeah, the thing about his Venom is he's vicious. He's like Spider-Man, but with none of the responsibility. And he's got teeth and claws, so he's like
And
more
he's always
feral.
constantly showing his face a lot more than Venom would usually do. And actually, wait, hold on. Stop the take here for a second. Can we just kind of edit it, the picture a little bit, and just kind of like paint his suit a little bit? I'm just spitballing here, like paint it red a little bit.
Because let's see, there is a symbiote who does use singular pronouns, who is sadistic and maniacally laughs whenever Spider-Man's in pain.
And
Who
would definitely say lines like, I love being bad. It makes me happy.
and hey, dye? Can you dye Topher Grace's hair curly red instead of blonde there? Ah, for
And
crap's sake!
oh crap, you gotta be kidding me. They accidentally wrote in a Carnage instead of Venom. Oh jeez.
And as much as Derek was hyped for this Venom movie, Venom Let There Be Carnage, he kind of bit his lip and said, "I
I hate to admit it, but I feel like Topher Grace did a better job doing a Carnage portrayal than fucking Woody Harrelson.
And he remembers in the build up to people making fan trailers of what if Carnage showed up, they would always take Topher's Venom and just simply paint it red.
Because it like he's also like very lean but muscularly, just like Carnage is.
So you're like, damn it, Sam, you aim for the wrong symbiote. I was just thinking, okay, if I can get Avi off my back, if I could just stick in any symbiote, like just put in a symbiote, okay? But okay, I'm exaggerating. But reality is that he saw the symbiote as a metaphor for like alcoholism or drug abuse. So he thought he'd make the like Peter is the guy who's barely on the path of going on junkie road and being self-destructive and doing habits. Eddie is the guy who would smoke that pipe full on and say, "Give me more of that." That's the difference between the two of them. That type of responsibility. I think that's what Sam was going for in his portrayal. Whereas Peter is the good guy who can be corrupted toward away because of the suit, but he managed to break free of the influence. The idea is that when he says, "I like being bad, it makes me happy," like that's just Eddie admitting, "I'm an addict and proud of it," right?
Yeah, and also when Peter manages to free Eddie from the suit, and like this is actually something that like only realized before we just started recording this, that like the suit seemed to have been able to gain like size and stature over the course of like being attached to like certain individuals. So like it started off small, just being like a little kind of like a little ink dip essentially, but then it was able to grow to like a human size when it latched on to like the superpowered Spider-Man, essentially giving itself like a much more fitting larger form. But then once Peter decides to hell with it, get rid of the suit, the whole mass doesn't dissolve into that little ink thing again. No, it's still like the same like amount of size and like height of the mask that Peter like essentially wore the entire time, and now it latched onto Eddie Brock, and now it's kind of essentially kind of bulked him up just a teeny bit and allowed him to like kind of like create like strenuous like web-like structures around like the construction site, even down to like homaging like the exact monogram print stylings of the Spider-Man title.
From the animated
Spider-Man,
series.
stop us if you can. And
And
then
oh,
once Peter manages to break Eddie free, it's the thing's literally grown to the size after like being a symbiote to two hosts that literally like reaching into fucking Hulk size.
they wanted to go for more of the traditional Monster Venom, like crazy covers, like Ultimate Spider-Man had, that kind of stuff.
So you actually get to have the chance to describe how it almost went in a different direction.
Oh, so originally, as it was written in the book and in the script, Topher Grace doesn't show his face too much. He shows it a couple of times, but for the most part, Venom is kind of Venom the whole time. And at one point during the whole scuffle with Harry and everything, and he's going to kill Spider-Man, the girders fall from the sky and impale Venom. And then we find out that the suit oozes off, and then out comes out nothing but bones and a twisted skull, and then the skewers go through that skeleton. And it reveals that maybe Venom had completely bonded to Eddie and consumed him. And because remember what Connor said, these things in nature, when they bind, they can be hard to unbind. That was the implication that it fed completely off of him. And the only reason Spider-Man didn't end up that way is because his spider powers kept it at bay. And he would kill, and the suit would try to reattach to Spider-Man, and then he would kill it with another sonic wave attack that weakened it to the point where, yeah, it died.
But yeah, that's pretty graphic. That certainly would have put the kibosh on any plans to do a spin-off of Venom. Thank God we actually managed to pull it off almost 20 goddamn years later.
I find it funny that Avi did want to do a spinoff, yet Sam blows up Venom. No question terms, he blew up in this movie.
Yeah, but they've been able to make a goddamn spin-off out of characters that have died on screen before anyway, so...
Yeah, you're right.
Electra, anyone?
Avi's gonna Avi, right?
Yeah. It would probably, like, show, like, ultra kind of, like, Eddie being blown back and, like, falling down into a dumpster on the other side.
With some of the symbiote still on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he would have done it if it were for that meddling studio.
Or he would have probably had a paramedic go to Eddie Brock, and then he switches the suit with him, and that guy blows up. But wait, that's a completely different series that did a stupid retcon. Oh yeah. Oh god. I think of all the movies in that series, I don't know if you were more mad at Part 5 or Resurrection. Well, at least with Resurrection, you got a laugh out of it. With 5, you were just bored and mad.
Resurrection at that point was just basically the franchise just taking a piss to say, like, okay, you just want more of these movies, just, like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But 5 was just the point where it's like, okay, so this is how you do a horror movie, right? It's like, did you just replace the book with something completely different?
Yeah. So with Venom, so what was your thoughts on? And clearly the design is different. What's funny is they had this animatronic that was more comic accurate. They had one that had more of a human mouth, which was creepy. There's a famous scene where Spider-Man's looking in his reflection at the suit and his chest, and then it does a jump cut to like that monster with the human teeth, and that's a jump scare that scares Peter. That's in the editor's cut to imply that the suit was taken over.
Actually, it makes me wonder, like, did the suit actually just make his body go on a joyride when the first time you get bonded with it?
Well, because remember, he wakes up out of nowhere not knowing how he got in front of that building with the reflection, because he was in bed the last he knew.
I like to just imagine, like, in the top of my head, it's like his body just having a convulsing, like, momentum, like, flying out after just, like, almost like a goddamn high, just, like, adrenaline shot into it. He's just flying out, breaking the windows, like, whipping around, flying around, and then, like, knocking his head a few times until he comes to and he finds himself, like, hanging upside down. Like, I slowly question how I got here. This is literally like 5 blocks away from my apartment.
So, but yeah, and what were your overall thoughts on Venom?
again, they botched him like to like certain degrees. Like yes, he's like got like the look, sure, but like one, they didn't like deepen his voice, so he, of course Topher Grace's like freaking like scrawny voice comes through this like huge thing with teeth, and you're just going to there. It's like that's not Venom. That's what is this?
And then
They couldn't have like altered his voice a little bit. Even the video games did that.
it also made him ridiculously thick.
And having a head that like looked like a freaking bobblehead.
And thighs that would make Chun-Li blush, as someone said.
But also, he doesn't have the we, they, them pronouns since it's, again, it's supposed to be an embodiment of two entities like fused together to form a new, altogether deadly creature that's born out of spite and revenge.
Like he loves quoting the animated series of Venom, saying, "We are your poison to your life." How's it go?
You're gonna pay. From now on, we're poison to you, Spider-Man. That's why we call ourselves Venom.
Which is a great line. And Venom would eventually get his due with the Venom movies, which are just fun, goofy fun. And they go horror sometimes,
but at the very least, they still managed to like nail the lethal protector aspect of Venom.
And it makes fun.
Like they had one job to actually get this like spite and revenge, and like falling into like the like absolute darkness of ambition and hatred and vengeance, and they just make like let Topher Grace make like looks like his fire sense is tingling. If you know what I'm talking about.
But then, of course, at the same time, we also have Topher Grace, doing stuff like praying to God for killing Spider-Man, and I think he said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." I think that was Derek's joke. I think he said, "Like I want you to kill Peter Parker." Oh, okay. And then, of course, I love that scene when he kind of breaks when he talks to Parker with the whole, "Listen, if you do this, no one will hire me." Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Should have thought of that.
Although Derek said,
just get religion.
Derek said this. "Oh my God, we would have been more colder and would have been perfect if he said that line to Parker."
Yes.
Parker just said back,
No, say Eddie Brock's line.
"Listen, if you do this, I have nowhere to go." Saying that no paper in town will hire me.
Pierre leans in forward and looks dead in his eyes. Says, "I missed the part where that's my problem."
Oh my God, that would have been amazing. But no, we got. I'm gonna put the
just there's like all around. It's like there's this the whole Venom execution was just bogged down by like one producer that was just really like seething at the teeth just to get this guy like his like big screen debut.
Like literally kept saying,
not taking like a few seconds to think of why Venom was even popular to begin with.
Like he said, famously, you can see obviously you have to put Venom. You need to put Venom. And said, you owe this to our fans. You need to put Venom. Like you like.
And Sam goes like, "All right, you want your guy to Venom? Here he is. He's got the black suit and everything. Shut up."
And Avi would eventually get the Venom of his dream with Venom in this Venom movie. Now, I think we said the word Venom way too many times in a single sentence with this whole segment. I appreciated Venom. I always thought Venom was pretty damn cool when I saw him. I was a little let down that he blew up right away, but I thought.
I'll admit that the final battle between him and like Spider-Man went from like the Eddie Brock Venom to like the Sue Venom with the like acoustics, like was definitely like a much more tense scene. Especially considering the fact that at times it almost kind of like seems like Raimi decided to just like have a little bit of a twitch and go like, "Oh yeah, I'm a horror director, aren't I?"
Yeah, there's some like the scene where Spider-Man's like stuck in the, looking around, just hearing nothing but Venom screeches, and then Zool motherfucker happens. Yeah, and I love that line of "never wound, but you can't kill."
So at last, we can finally come to bringing a conclusion of these last three top billing characters. First off, let's finally wrap up this long arc of a build up to this moment where two friends have like had butt heads with each other with James Franco's Harry Osborn, and also it's the Hobgoblin. Oh, like never mind. He's the
Green
Doom
Goblin.
Goblin.
Nope.
So
And
yeah, what most people thought was going to happen was Harry taking on the form of the Hobgoblin without stepping back and thinking like, would he really take his father's whole theatricality of like being like the Emerald Elf like seriously?
yeah.
Even like Josie pointed out, it's like he must have like at least like taken the time to like refine the formula, which is probably like what he was focusing on after that little cliffhanger moment where he discovers the secret room, which somehow Norman set up without anyone noticing. Well, in his short week tenure as the Green Meanie.
And oh man, like his sky stick is not as theatrical as the Bat Goblin glider.
In fact, you can argue it's far more practical than whatever Osborn, like Norman, was considered. Like, probably looking at their mirror reflection, and going like, "Damn, why did I think of that?"
One moment, please give me a moment.
But, uh, but yeah. So as we do actually also get, Sam was actually kind smart to point out that like he does take cues from like his dad's work. Like he was able to like minimize the whole mass to like a more uh stripped down more degree, because he, as the behind the scenes pointed out, like he's not trying to like hide his identity, like that he's going after Peter. He's literally like he has a mask on for a moment, but then once Peter's like kind of caught up against the wall, he realizes he kind of like dons this is off the whole facade and says, "You knew this was coming, Pete," which I understand. And as they also describe his costume as more like kind of SWAT meets a more like stoic Black Knight of sorts. But also he still does retain like some hints of the green hue as his father donned before. So it's clearly like not everything from the Osborns is uh completely different when you get down to it. And needless to say, the fight between Harry and Peter is really, really fast and intense, especially considering the fact that this is coming off the heels of Aunt May giving Peter the ring, that one special ring that she held on for years that Uncle Ben gave to her, and like out of the blue, like Harry yeets him off and like he's tossing him across the air to a point where the ring flies out of his pocket, and you could honestly hear like the gasp of the audience and the literal pin drop as like everyone's holding their breath to see how you get the ring back.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in my theater. I remember out loud, myself included, everyone did a big ol' when he saw the ring out of his grasp, and then Harry grabs him. I still remember where even Derek wondered, okay, I know he's getting the ring and everything, but it's funny how Spider-Man gets on the glider. He just grabs Harry by the leg and just swings him up into the air, and then slingshots himself to get to the web. But did he know that Harry's glider was going to catch him?
I honestly don't think he did.
Well, maybe he figured Harry would land on the building. I don't know.
Who honestly knows? It was kind of like the rush of the moment, but I was kind of already describing his suit and the fact that he's kind of stripped down like his father's theatrics to just a point where it's like I don't really care about like just being the Green Goblin. I'm only just doing this just to kill Pete.
Yeah, like he told him, you knew this was coming. And then, of
And
course,
it no, I've already rambled on while you were like
I had to get
damn
my cat
man.
out. Sorry.
But
But what happened was that it's very funny though. But this is the part that you either like it or you hate it with him. Where he after that intense fight with Spider-Man, it ends with him getting clotheslined and hitting his head really, really hard.
a lot of people you read it's like, wait, what does that cause? It's like, well, he has the case of the amnesia trope.
Oh yeah, and I myself think it's cute because it allows James Franco to be weird James Franco. But other people say it's like that problem sure solves itself.
And again, another thing that just kind of came to my mind after rewatching it recently and before we started recording is that it almost kind of gives Peter a chance to have a do-over, to actually have a chance to actually sit down and actually talk to Harry about like what actually happened. Because like before this, like whenever he tries to talk to Harry about it, like Harry will have none of it. It'll cut him off. Like, you wants to hear nothing out of him. But here he thinks that like, okay, well, because obviously like the reveal in Spidey 2 was just like unprecedented, like out of nowhere, like even threw Harry for a loop. And obviously you can see the end result of that now with him flying around on a surfboard in the sky.
Oh yeah, and he even says flat out he killed himself, but he wasn't hearing any of it. So, what I like is, even though he's cut back on the theatrics, he still has some of his father's signature weaponry, like the pumpkin bombs, the rockets, the razor bets.
I hate those things.
But
And, like I'm sitting
so,
here in the audience sees like, yeah, those things were a pain in the video games.
but oh my gosh, you're thinking, well, okay, so clearly he's a ticking time bomb, and eventually he does get back his memory, and I like how his memory plays back everything in the worst light possible. Mhm.
Yep.
I love it when he tells him, "We'll get together
And
tomorrow."
you
Yeah.
managed to point out that like you did paint Peter like in more sinister light, almost kind of like a certain Jedi's perspective on things.
From a certain point of view. But oh my gosh. So then he becomes an acting force when he turns MJ
But
against Peter.
which I'm kind of good, put my foot down and say no, 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 1,000 times no. I know that Mary's kind of had conflicting thoughts when Gwen Stacy entered, but this is like right up there with the absolute. What even the hell were you even thinking, guys?
Well, because
Like,
yeah, because the thing that happens, like she decides to reconcile with Harry since he was there for her and everything like that in high school days. Because she actually told him like, yeah, I'm the one that got fired and all this stuff when she couldn't tell Peter because Peter was so up in his own things that he couldn't really keep up with her what's going on with her. And then so we get an accidental kiss, and you go, okay, yeah, the little accidental instinctual thing, okay, got it. But then Harry shows up and says, "Hey, listen, and I'm Goblin, and I'm gonna kill Spider-Man unless you do exactly what I say." Which his end game is to kill Spider-Man anyway, so she should know that helping him would be to no end.
and not only that, but she should also remember it's like, oh yeah, Pete's goddamn Spider-Man is able to fight off these guys. Like he's able to like keep on his toes, have oh I don't know a instinctual sense to warn him of danger approaching him, like the time when it actually saved him from Goblin trying to pull a sneak attack on him in the first movie. What even the hell were you thinking, you daft redheaded? That's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
later.
that,
But
yeah,
needless to say, the moment that she saw that wedding ring that Pete had, she should have just dropped to the side and looked around and said, like, Harry's back, got his memory back. You need to run right the hell now.
but
But
yeah, it
nope.
didn't turn out that way. Yeah, so it
And
was,
of course,
and
it goes back into Harry's face once he admits to Peter, say, "Yeah,
I'm the
okay,
other
she's
guy.
looking. You're looking at him."
Oh God, it's so corny and cheese. But then, oh my God, I remember laughing hard at yeah, Peter can't comprehend like what, and they made a meme out of Peter of Harry explaining I'm the other guy with red eyes, like if he's stoned, he's just something like, you ever thought about if you put an oven in, it's cold, like one of those like stupid things, and Peter's back going like, what? But oh man, so it does lead to one of the most funniest moments in the movie with him, where Spider-Man realizes Harry's back when he turns over and winks at him. Then a passing truck comes by and he just vanishes from the scene.
And the guy in the back is like, "The bitch went without paying his bill."
Or I'm thinking maybe he's thinking, "What the hell are you doing down there, bro?" He's like under the table out of
Too
frame.
late. It's like dramatic exit, which I'm not supposed to be doing, considering the fact that I don't do things dramatically. But my father was just kind of give me the runaround when I was talking to the mirrors. Say, no,
Oh,
no, no, that's not how we do things, son. We are all about the theatricality of it. We're grandiose, god damn it.
no good deed goes unpunished. But yeah, oh my god. So then that leads to that hilarious, no grace barroom scuffle because when they're fighting in the earlier scene, it's more graceful. There's like the aerobatics and all that stuff. It's rough, it's raw. But here, it's like a bar fight.
Like this is a fight where like both parties have like intent to like really put them down.
hmm
But,
And
and
Peter gets a little stab too for crying out loud.
oh yeah, he did. Like which is Spider-Sense should have learned to that. Gee, I hope that doesn't ever happen in another movie ever again.
And oh man, so it eventually ends with Spider-Man knocking him down and explaining to him, "Hey, listen, your father thought you were garbage, you were trash, and I'm tired of you know, tired of trying to convince you, man." And best line
Oh
in the
look,
meme.
oh got me cheated, gonna cry. Like, protect your ass in school. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Ooh,
Ooh.
yeah. Now the alternate cut has more funny with him sitting in the chair saying, "I didn't think she'd do that, man." Okay, well, then he just Peter was the first instigator without the whole strawberries punch thing in that version.
Huh. But
Eh,
yeah, also
dude, the more you tell me about this cut,
we should tell you like most of this fight was definitely still practical. It,
oh
like
god, a lot
most
of
of the
it.
hits happened or actually happened. So yeah.
Even the Goblin board.
Oh yeah.
Oh damn, James must have took a hit to the head for that one.
Well, well, I mean, Sam comes from like a slapstick history, so any moment where you can instantly put in like a real, real heavy hard hit to a human body, you're gonna actually end up doing it.
Well, except for that deadly fall from the glider, that was a CG model, but yeah.
But
Oh my,
yeah, yeah.
but
Needless to say, this fight ends up to a point where you think like it get like a dash daring like death of Harry and this explosive like pumpkin bomb to the face. And bear in mind, have to remember, mind you, that this is the same pumpkin bomb that will like literally annihilate a group of people and somehow make it look like it's the appearance of like people turning into skeletons. It's the
or I forget,
satiate the
Spider-Man.
ratings.
Spider-Man took a bomb to the face, and it tore most of his mask away.
And also the fact that Harry does have like the goblin formula coursing through his veins.
So he
But
was able
even
to heal
then,
from
it's
that.
oh
But it
yeah,
looked a mess.
also his bump in his head that had the big noticeable scar healed over time, almost as if it's a sign of his memories will slowly start to heal back. Sam, you son of a bitch!
You figuring it out now? You kept your eye off the ball. But I like to think that his hallucinations started when he started drinking, because that's an analogy to the fact that in the comics, Harry had a drug and drinking problem at one point. Hell, he was drinking a lot, the sauce heavy a lot in Spider-Man 2, so I'm surprised he didn't develop a full-on alcoholism problem.
And that's the other Marvel super power
Billionaire.
being.
That's the other Marvel billionaire with the flying suit.
But yeah, needless to say, like I would like to bring up like this funny ass quote that I always like to bring up from MC3K of like what resulted of like poking about to the face. So the result of this complete and utter mutilation is just minor errors and irritation.
Yeah, I mean, it was still a pretty fucked up scar, but he's not like Darth Vader on Mustafar.
No, he still managed to at least keep his looks on that one.
Yeah, but oh my gosh. So to show you how Peter messed up when he tries to ask him for help to fight Venom and Sandman together, uh, you got a messed up Harry who's just wounded, telling him, "You don't even deserve my help," and that's a great acting scene between James Franco and Harry right there, and Peter.
But then it leads to the most frustrating thing that any Marvel or movie fan would ever actually have to sit through.
2 years knowing. I mean, the cops screwed up, but then this guy screwed up as well.
So, uh,
Bernard, the loyal butler, admits, "I have seen things in this house, things I haven't spoken of." Saying that, yeah, I was there,
I was cleaning your father's wounds,
and I know you're
but
trying to defend his honor, but the fact can't be denied.
he
He
died
died.
by his own hand.
So he knew about the
But
blade that
which
pierced his
like two
body.
things. Like one, how would you even know that like Spidey didn't like cause the glider to like get impaled into him first? Because like even Venom was able to uh like force the board to like impale someone. And two, how you knew that Norman was the Green Goblin all along?
That's like evidence that should be going to the police at least. Wait, maybe that's
It makes you wonder. It's like how much of that was made public? Because there's some characters like when we get to No Way Home that like know that Norman became the Green Goblin, but it's not public knowledge. So how much is it to know what that was? Like,
oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
it just raises too many questions.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, the in the editor's cut, they at least make Harry look at the broken stuff in his room, and he sees the picture of him, MJ, and Peter being happy, and that is what makes him turn the tide.
So instead of like having Bill Paxton's dad make a hand wave cameo, it's essentially like Harry just kind of like snapping out of his own arrogant tunnel vision to realize that the more important thing instead of his blood family is the family he made along the way.
On top of that, uh, him being deformed is a epitome of what Aunt May was talking about. Revenge is like a poison turning into something ugly. It took him over, but he was able to break free of that.
So
Eddie
I
was
just
so
gotta sit here
vengeful.
and wonder, like, when is someone gonna make like a newer cut where like they take the good bits of the editor's cut and like a big portion of the good like uh, story making directorial thing that Sam was able to do with the theatrical one and kind of merge them together to make a better like altogether like tempered beast.
Dang. I'm sure some fans have done it eventually.
All I'm gonna say is if I ever find one, like I'm not gonna hesitate to buy it. Like,
Hmm. I think it's a digital only release thing, but we'll know. Who knows? Okay, so Harry
but yeah,
does eventually relent and go to join Peter in his most crucial hour.
and it is kind of like a very like pretty good turnaround to see like two friends that started out as friends are able to stand like side by side to protect the other friend that they've like grown to care and love together.
And it's so cute. I mean, you can't help but cheer when they grab hands together and say, "Just like old times, huh?" Like came in the nick of time. A couple of seconds ago would have been nice. What are you gonna do? Did I get? And they do some. In fact, Derek thought this was a very good realization of the friend or foe game when you think about it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like all good things must come to an end, and as Venom is ready to plunge Harry's like nifty sky stick blade to Peter as he's like stuck, unable to move, Harry decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. Wait, shouldn't this sky stick be able to instantly recognize that like his owner is not riding on it and fly it directly towards him instead of?
The Venom knocked him off. He was knocked out, and Venom used his sheer Venom strength to try to impale Spider-Man.
All right. So it see, makes the big grand sacrifice to take the place of Peter's being stabbed right in front of him.
But hey, he held out longer than his dad did. But then he said Norman took a cross shot. Then he said, "Yeah, I think any man would want to like perish immediately at the thought of losing those."
But give it to Harry, who managed to get like his heart and lungs stabbed,
And still hold out long enough to have forgiveness to Peter.
and it is kind of like hard to watch because not because of like how like certain things weren't executed as well as one would have hoped, but the fact that it's like you've been watching this entire trilogy, seeing these two like grow together. They're essentially they are still brothers essentially, and it's just really, really hard to see like one of them having to go and like the other two like are there just like witnessing like their friend's final last breath.
If I can compare it to something, this is going to sound weird, but it's a lot like Darth Vader and Luke's last scene in Return of the Jedi when you think about it. The reconciling and everything.
Yeah, but in this case, yeah, like two people to like make amends with instead of just one.
But still, I think my point still stands. But oh man, but like it says, and he's the funeral. 'Cause people make a joke how Spider-Man movies either end with a wedding or a funeral, and in this Spider-Man 1 and 2, it ends with a funeral. And I think everybody in town showed up for Harry's funeral.
And so that is pretty much the ultimate conclusion to like James Franco and Harry. So we
would
move
he
on
ever
to
would he ever glide the glider again, you think? Ever?
well, considering the fact that you missed out on No Way Home, the answer is probably no.
Well, who knows? Stranger things have happened. But anyway, yeah, you're right. We're moving on from Harry.
And we're going to finish up with Kirsten Dunst and donning as Mary Jane Watson, which this one is also frustrating, but it's like frustrating because it's just not that simple to just point to one simple thing. It's like you can't just like sit there and just say like, oh, you did this character like injustice, because you have to also like realize it's really not that simple. It's like a lot of factors to take into account. It's just a case of like someone being dealt with a bad hand.
But yeah, like we all know she's been going up and on. Oh my God, if Spider-Man 2 was about piling on to Peter, then Spider-Man 3 just unloads a dump truck of misery on MJ throughout the movie.
Probably as payback for her just immediately saying yes to like a guy she just met, like I'm assuming like at least 5 days ago, and say like, yes, I'm gonna get married because I'm gonna be like married to a famous person and actually matter, and like rub it in my dad's face and saying like, hi, how do you like them apples, pops? I actually matter. You stupid git.
Oh yeah, I mean, that does come into play when she does do her Broadway stuff, but is not performing as well. People are saying she's kind of good, and you got all the critics on town saying stuff like, "Yeah, she can't sing worth a damn," and she's thinking it's
Which even we as we were listening to it, we had to sit there and go like, well, she's no like Adelaide or freaking Celine Dion, but she sounds pretty good.
And I said, I think this is secretly Sam Raimi saying he wants to direct like an old timey musical sometime.
Mhm. Which I'm still sitting here waiting, saying like, why is he just why doesn't anyone like let him get the chance to do that?
Oh, but he got to do music note fights.
Uh, one step at a time, I guess.
Yeah. Don't forget, it took years for Steven to do his passion project of West Side Story, which I still hear is really good.
Really now.
Well, yeah,
Well,
West Side
then
Story.
again, I haven't heard bad news, so no bad news is good news, I guess.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. So, what's funny is Peter's so up in his own head that some of the problems that MJ's bringing up, he doesn't even seem to think about it. He always thinks of it from a Spider-Man point of view. Oh yeah, well that happens to Spider-Man all the time. Like that's not what I'm saying. She's saying, basically, this is showing you that he is not living up to what he promised Aunt May of. The man puts his partner before himself, and here he is putting himself up over her wants and needs. When you think about it.
Yeah, but in Pierce's defense, she like it says, try to imagine how I feel after reading like this like eh, like this like critical thing. It's like, bitch, I spent 2 years having like some guy the mustache that's like almost edging towards Adolf Hitler and Charlie Chaplin, like trying to paint me as the ultimate like bad guy of evil.
No, but he's on a high train right now. He's being loved by every paper in the city, so it's different than every city in the paper telling you you can't sing worth a damn when that's like your biggest aspiration.
And not only that, but when she reads the reviews, it's basically her seeing her father's words
Because
being
remember,
put to print.
if you remember all the
Which
stuff
then
of your
you have to
trash.
remember that that was the abuse abusive like lifestyle she had to get out of, and yeah, that's where you have to sit and curl up and say, okay, I'll just shut up now.
But yeah, so eventually, but the great thing is, even though she's kind of after that whole blow up at the festival with Spider-Man kissing, and that's her thing, and then when she hears that Peter's in trouble because Aunt May told him about the real killer being found and Peter's in duress, the first thing she does is go to check on him. So that she still
But
does care for
you would
him.
have thought like maybe she would have like in any other story, maybe she would have probably was like, you know what, I'm not gonna do this thing. I'm just gonna let him stew on this one. But like this is like no, like this is a man that actually like caused the most harm to the Parker family, and like literally almost caused Peter to do something he almost regret with the other guy. But now this new other guy that's out there, and
He's a super villain
Peter
now.
has the strength to actually do something about it. It's like she kind of worries about like you might take it one step a little bit too far.
Yeah, and on top of
And
that,
then
she even
even Peter like tried to say like, look, I just had the guy cornered and he like just fell out of ability, which I did not push him, by the way. That was his own goddamn fault
and
because
she
he
even
didn't
said
want
I
to.
didn't. She even said I didn't say you did. I'm just saying don't be careful.
Like you got lucky the first time. Just don't actually get to the point where you like do something you will regret.
And the thing he eventually did regret was hitting her. But yeah, so yeah, of course, there's that very rough thing when the show, even the agents point out, yeah, we fucked up, saying that was handled poorly. When they
Like
said
yeah,
when
they literally like shouted her out of the role with like someone else.
and they say then no agent didn't even he says man the agent was supposed to call like honey that we could tell them you got sick at least make it look more dignified.
And then she just like says nothing and just turns around and just walks away. It's like I, I didn't even know why I bothered. Why the fuck is this?
And the guys were like yeah that was it's like that one meme with Jeff. Oh no. So anyway, yeah. God damn, that I felt bad seeing MJ go through that. Fun fact: that's Christopher Young as the man behind the piano for that rehearsal.
The yet, yet another case of the musician actually getting an on-screen role.
Yeah. So, of course, like I said, and then of course there was getting fired. She didn't tell Peter. The whole thing happened. She sees him sharing an intimate moment between her with someone else that he never mentioned before, and then the whole scene with the oh my
Oh yeah,
god.
we also like a lot of people point out to like the funny homage or the dig on this dance, but I noticed a few people ever point out the let's do the twist montage with cooking omelets.
With Harry and MJ, it's cute to me.
Yeah, but like you like as a kid watching it, so just kind of sitting and going like,
Are we doing this?
I, I thought this was a Spider-Man movie, not like a Adam Sandler comedy.
Oh god, the blooper's even more of a comedy when they break the egg and Chris is like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "Oh shit, you can't say shit in Spider-Man, can you?" And then, oh god, then there's Harry's cringy 12th grade play he wrote. I think a little
Uh,
self-deception to get you through the night. Oh my god, I
but
love that.
in the end, she like uh, well, I think they she was unaware to patch things up after like that moment that happened, especially when she realizes that like Pierre's actions really were like so out there that even he was kind of freaked out by it.
Hmm. So I like how she broke up with him with the whole Harry plot thing, but then when he shows up back in her life with the whole Gwen thing, that's when he really puts the piss out on her, and even she's going like, "What's with you?" She's thinking.
But then of course remember like, oh yeah, she's supposed to be the damsel in distress. Let's put her in like a taxi cab suspended over the air. And mind you, like all the speech she does, like that's like all ADRs from like the previous movies.
Yeah, because she wasn't going to be screaming again after the third movie for crying out loud. After the strain she had the last two movies. Now, Kirsten Dunst is still giving it her all. There's no way to think she phoned this in or did this as an obligation. She was still, giving MJ like a lot of pathos in this one. Like one of my favorite scenes is just a simple scene is after she says that to call Peter, she's just walking alone in amidst the many faces in New York, and because they actually shoot in New York, it just gives you that I don't know, just that vibe when she's alone and all the people are around her.
And then, yeah, so she's able. She also does get to have something that she got robbed of in the last movie, which is to give like a villain a little sneak attack to save Toby.
Yeah, she hits Venom with the with the cinder block from above.
It really irks him so much. Unfortunately, her biggest adversary is the freaking taxi cab that seems to keep following her as it goes down gravity.
It's like the Jeep from Jurassic Park, but only it's gunning for her.
But in the end, she's able to get out and have to nurse Harry as he's like bleeding out from the initial blade wound. And just seeing her faces, like Harry's on his last uh, strand of life, is just really, really gut wrenching. But then the ultimate like sad moment is when we get to see the two at the end, where they're obviously they've been through a lot, things have happened, and well, it's always best to start on the right foot from the very beginning.
Oh yeah, and at least it gives you hope that they will make things up after that unifying thing. And she is concerned for Peter. Like when they get saved and Spider-Man tells her, he's like, they're gonna kill us both. She's very like concerned. But oh my
So,
gosh, she also gets the best. She gets jump scared twice in this movie. The first time is when Harry jumps her to say, "Do what I want," and the second one that always made me jump out of my skin as a kid was going to the cabbie, and Eddie Brock's in there going, "Where to, miss?" and his Venom hand grabs her.
but yeah, so all these movies, Kirsten definitely was able to portray a very like, well-known like figure in like the entire Spider-Man mythos, and that's definitely like a lot of a hype and burden to have to bear. And she managed to handle it, like even in the highs and lows, and like despite how people kind of react to how she's portrayed at times, like in the end, she's still just got a good heart, but she's still just like healing from like the never-ending like lambasting from family upbringing, essentially.
And like I said, though, yeah, people are split on how Kirsten portrayed MJ here, but I always was on board with the arc she had.
Then at last, you finally reach Peter Parker and his portrayal by Tobey Maguire, and what we all thought was probably his last outing for like quite the long time, and a lot of people were kind of
It
upset
was,
about that.
but yeah, because remember they wanted to do a fourth Spider-Man movie. I think he figured they'd do more, but it ended up three ultimately ended up being the last one that Raimi and him did together, and that was surprising. But he still gave it his all because he had to do the unthinkable, make the bad guy of this hero be of this movie be the hero that we're supposed to be cheering for. Because Peter kind of messes up big time in ways he doesn't see until he looks back on reflection.
I mean, it kind of goes without saying that like the city kind of like reacting to him in a positive way is kind of painted his mindset. Like even we start at the beginning of the movie where he's just watching like a clip of Spider-Man, which apparently someone managed to get in a very good day at least. That's playing on a loop in Times Square and see like a group of kids watching and like suggest like, hey, stick around, it's gonna start again in like a couple minutes.
Hmm.
It's like, dude, I'm pretty sure those kids have got to go somewhere, dude.
But
But
yeah, and then oh
like
my
he
gosh,
like the way like Toby paints it like in the beginning, it's like almost sounds like a pretty good like happy-go-lucky fairy tale where like things are starting to come into place. Like city loves him, like the girl of his dreams is finally in the know. He's like getting to class on time. Like the whole existential crisis is like finally like put down to say, okay, I have a choice to actually be Spider-Man and a choice to be Peter Parker, and like able to balance in between.
yep,
And
and
like now and like all. And on top of all of that, he's finally decided to like, you know what? I think this is definitely gonna be. Yeah, I'm gonna actually ask Mary Jane to marry me.
Which is, we all know marriage is a big deal step in TV shows and movies and sitcoms. When for some reason, mediums seem to be afraid of marriages so much that they want to get spiritual entities to undo them for some reason.
Involving ethereal demonic entities. Yeah, I've already like hit that like bull in a china shop enough times. I think it's sick and tired of it already.
Oh yeah, but
I'm
point
honestly
is,
sick and tired of just talking about it.
yeah. So what happens is that, yeah, you're right. He's feeling like Mr. High in the cloud, pie in the sky guy. And then, of course, you get that wrecked by MJ not gelling well. And then you got this news that, oh, your uncle's real killer's back into the fold. And that's when tunnel vision really takes hold. He stops
Like,
going from happy-go-lucky guy to I'm going to wreck this mother. Like, he was listening to police scanners showing crimes happening that normally he'd probably jump in and maybe help out a little, but he's specifically fishing, chumming for his white whale.
and even before like he learns the identity of his uncle's real killer, I honestly noticed how sloppy a little bit that Spidey's heroic acts and mannerisms is. Like he's like slipping up and letting Gwen Stacy kiss him on the face when he should have like had 2 seconds to realize like, whoa, wait, maybe I should have kind of made it or like just like a good like peck on the cheek, or the fact that his entire fight on uh the bank car like really didn't go well. Like you can't sit back and remember and say, yeah, like Pierce had some like hardballs like with like the train sequence in the second one, but he didn't like make like mistakes like letting like an oncoming car like hit him when he swings to one side,
Oh yeah.
or like didn't time his like ejection of like the passengers out to safety before the truck car crashes. Like usually he's able to have like a like stern, quick mind. He's a little bit more smart in this, but it's like like again, this is the same scene where he just like boasted to Sammy and say, "I guess you haven't heard. I'm the sheriff around these parts."
Yeah, okay.
It's, it's like, dude, you weren't that boasting like when you were doing this in like one or two. Why are you doing this now?
Again, he's kind of become a little arrogant, a little high on himself, and it was the arrogance and hubris that was the real thing, and the suit only turned that up a notch because we all talk about how stupid and silly the James Brown montage is, but it's just showing you that he's kind of, this is the real him. It's not the suit turning him into someone else. This is the suit showing what was already there. And yeah, he's a bit of a goofball, but that goofball can also be destructive without that power. Because remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and here he is showing no responsibility. Like, he didn't show responsibility when he saved that armored car. That could have hurt someone more if he didn't stop it the way he did. I know it was short on time, but still, uh, he bore no responsibility for how he took out Sandman. Like, it was just like he was just acting carefree and loose, and that ended up, costing him a lot when he really sat and thought about it, almost pushing away the things that mattered the most to him.
And he also kind of acted a little bit abrasive by just smashing like a. I'm assuming it's probably like a Daily Bugle property camera when Eddie Brock was like snapping photos of him.
Yeah, he
Like
was just,
like
yeah,
like if he was like really that determined to like just get Salmon once a for all, he should have just open a great noticed Eddie Brock is said could just like said F you or like just jump down. But
no,
he
but he
takes the time to actually just take like web up his camera and just smack it over across and just kind of
called a
give
chump.
the chump.
Yeah, and like he said, and when he was, I love it when they make those fake photos about how he robs a bank and people are like, "Oh, I'm looked up to this guy," and he said, "I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. Like, I'm really gonna put the screws on you for this one."
Oh, and he really like roasts him. Like your your kid your photo's faked, like up and down.
So, like, tell your bosses to check the sources. Like, mhm.
And it causes Brock to be fired, and the Bugle didn't have a good standing at this point. It's like the point where Jonah has to publicly apologize to Spider-Man.
which he hasn't done in 20 years.
I have perfection in 20 years.
And oh man, but like I says, I like how he thinks he's on top of the world. He got the staff job, he's loose and free, and like he's like disregarding the advice of friends like Dr. Connors and stuff like that.
And he's flirting with Ursula with like cookies. Goddamn cookies, man! You don't flirt around with that. That's like really towing the line there.
What's cute is when she says that the MJ call is happening. You see her baking the batter for the cookies eventually. Oh my gosh! And then okay, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I just want to bring it up. I love it when he's going to bring up how he's going to marry MJ. He opens it up in the most serious way. What's wrong? Oh, it's MJ. Doesn't say nothing. I'm going to pop the question like, oh god, it's like those stupid articles that say James Earl Jones, age 91, is going to be awarded over here. And like, oh thank God. When I first read the age, I'm like, so you think, oh god, you always jump to the worst when you see stuff like that, right?
Peter Parker, clickbait man.
Yeah, but oh man, like he says, I love how his twisted view of how he thinks Flint killed Ben turns out, because you're like,
It makes like the thief that he like was like again he was very happy trigger like willing to even kill like Peter Parker when he was like in the proto suit.
like he was stunned.
Make it look like he was just kind of like a meek little like pawn in the whole thing. Like, but it makes Flint like screw the money. I just want to kill this fucker.
Yeah, like, and then I love how that version of events plays in his head when the suit's bonding to him. He's like having a nightmare and gripping the sheets and everything.
Oh, and make Flint Marco in color against grayscale.
Yeah, like just to show you that that's his tunnel vision. That's his target. That's who he wants to hurt the most. And oh my gosh, I know it's just shouting acting, but just the way he screams in the subway against Sandman shows you how angry he is. Like, it's time to pay, Marco, and that cold good riddance when he thinks he's finally killed him.
That gives me chills. And then of course he constantly has his idea of his head to have his like part of his like bangs like hang over his eyes. Like,
was he going for a goth face?
Pete, you're not gonna be getting the partnership deal with Hot Topic anytime. Just let it go.
That what my friend always jokes when he sees that movie happening, and I'm thinking Peter's going, must become more emo.
Need to buy Hot Topic.
And then
not the mainstream trendy one, like old school early 2000s Hot Topic.
And then like closing the curtains and everything with menacing music playing. Oh god! And then oh my gosh, the editor's cut made a baffling cut to me, where when MJ goes to see Harry, it suddenly cuts back to Peter sitting in the chair skulking, and then he looks at the suit and then smiles at it. But that scene comes later after the breakup scene when he finds out Harry's manipulating her. But they put that scene.
To the defense, I argue it's like, well, maybe the way they frame it, it's like he's trying to keep himself away from the suit, but he can't because he just remembers how good and powerful and how much it felt good to him.
Oh,
gives that smile.
There was another shot in the trailer teaser where you see him like it's that upper angle frame. He's like scowling and he got like the shadows. It makes Peter look like a scary dude. Yeah, but oh my gosh.
But needless to say, when he starts to like really upstage and embarrass Mary Jane in front of the entire jazz club with his like very choreographed and well done dance moves, like it reaches to a point where like he could have just stopped it right there, just kind of walked out.
No, he had to go and love drunk.
Yeah, just like really like lay it thick on Mary Jane. It's like, yeah, it felt embarrassing. How do you feel about it?
And it's like, you're my problem. Like, oh my gosh. And even the staff is like, oh, we were laughing. We're not meant to laugh. We were laughing at the scene before it where he's with Gwen and talking like a 40s jazz lounge lizard. You're looking fine. You're looking fine, babe. Hey, Pops, hold the door. Like, just I'm laughing like, oh my gosh. Of course,
my head canon is like the way he thinks that this is how like cool people talk is he's watched old movies that Ben Parker showed him.
Oh, that's kind of cute. But oh man,
But needless to say, once it escalates to the point where like like as we pointed out, like Pierre holds back his punches whenever like fighting like small time bad guys and crooks. And I got the distinct impression from the look of his face that he was not intending to hold back anything with the bouncer.
and it's just the bouncer who just wanted to see him go off, but like, he grabbed him by the hand. He must have felt threatened to keep your hands off of me, and then like, come on, let's go. And he just goes adamantium rage on his ass.
To the point where the other staffers try to stop him, and even Mary Jane, like only just hired there, but she's like clearly at least feels to support her, like these like people that like been able to bring her in after her hard times, like gets repaid with a really gut wrenching slap to the face by Peter.
Oh my god. Derek says no matter how many times he knows it's coming, it still hurts to watch every time it happens.
Because again, it's like at this point you've already watched for the first two movies. You saw how much like anytime like Peter like gushed over like uh Mary Jane told him like how what he thinks she should be like how she should be able to like see herself in like the hospital scene or when he tells her that punch me I bleed too. It is the fact that we just reached this point where this relationship is really just gonna be broken forever and ever, and all because of just one stupid out of interplanetary like being decides to just like have a joyride of like this super being that just, at this point we are assuming is probably the only superhero in this world.
So it's like, yeah, I can see why that would be like. Do you remember your theater's reaction when that scene happened?
A lot of gasp. Let's not like kid ourselves. A lot of people gasped and this scene went utterly silent.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I think I remember some people gasping and going, "No!" when he kissed Gwen, and even the boy was insisting, "You don't do it, Spider-Man." Oh, and I love Harry throwing in. I hope Peter's getting a shot of this.
Ugh.
Well, somebody did because it was all over the papers.
Probably Eddie Brock.
Oh, but oh man, but hey, you think he was okay with his girl kissing Spider-Man?
He probably thought it's like so my girlfriend's literally kissing the guy that's getting the key to the city. How awesome is that?
Okay, well I guess that he's a little more.
He probably use that as a bragging thing. It's like, my girl actually got to kiss the Spider-Man.
Oh man, it'd be very funny if he was dating more with Gwen. He'd probably say, "Hey, can you do the upside down thing?" Like Eddie, come on. Like I got the mask and everything. Come on, let's do it.
But yeah, it reaches to a point where Peter decides that like enough is enough. He's got to get rid of this thing, and like it was like a point where he was kind of worried that he wasn't able to get it because the suit was probably getting wise to like what he's gonna do, and he was threatening to just stay on him the entire time. Which
And
thankfully was decided to do this at a church of all places.
it's from the comic.
I know, but it just seems kind of random. Like after he punched MJ would have like gone to a place where he usually goes to kind of contemplate himself. The Chrysler Building.
But there's no bells on the Chrysler Building.
Exactly. So why would he go to the church?
Unless he kind of figured out the sound thing by accident, but But oh man, but I know people like to make fun of Toby for his screaming, but he does a lot of fine screaming with the ripping off of the suit scene.
Like you could actually tell that was like it's not the most like easiest thing to do. It's like it's probably like trying to remove like cement glue off of your skin.
Oh, and you gotta admit, you gotta love that. It's in all the trailers. That haunting scream he gives when he's like split the suit from his chest and it's all writhing and he's screaming as they're zooming in on him.
Yeah. And then the next time we see him, he's kind of like alone in his room, just contemplating. It's like gotten rid of the problem, but like, how am I ever gonna live myself that I literally just hit the one girl that I've always loved and dreamed to be with since first grade.
But I do love that shot of Spider-Man in the cathedral on the rain. That's like the iconic, tower shot. But
It's like that one trailer shot that like he's like used to sell and promote, and you'd be reminisced if they actually didn't film that in the movie.
mm-hmm. But oh man, and then of course there's the I love the shower. Like you'd want to shower after the. So did he change back into his street clothes when he swung back home, or did he do an amazing bagman? I don't know why I'm thinking about that now.
FYI, man. FYI.
TMI, you mean?
TMI.
Oh, but okay. But oh my gosh. At least Aunt May was able to get him back on the horse after his realizing, yeah, I messed up big time.
Yeah, then we get the moment where he has to like really buckle down and have to fight both Sandman and Goblin.
Venom.
Goblin just like kind of gives to the F you, man, you blew half my face off. Go die.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, you gotta admit, I love the triumphant music showing him pulling his old suit out of the bed, so he's like ready to go back into action. And oh my gosh, I mean, he's had great entrances before, but you can't help but cheer along with the audience in the movie, the crowd in the movie. You can't help but cheer with them when they say, "Look over there," and then Spider-Man comes in, and there's even a big old flag behind him and everything.
So
Like I don't think
ultimately,
we've seen Spider-Man sing in
he
front of
does
crowds.
get his ass whooped really hard by this. And to be fair, this is the first time like there's two supervillains that are kind of double teaming him. Phrasing.
Like oh my gosh, like just like Venom tying him down and Sandman using his bludgeon to beat the crap out of Spider-Man.
And bear in mind that's not mostly sand. That's like sand and probably like unwet cement and like girders and like everything like build up in clumps. Oh, and he's also getting slammed like sandwiched between like Sandman's fist and like a straight up building girder, which is like let's not forget that those things are like tough as nails, like suckers.
And oh man, uh, what was I gonna say though? It is a little heartbreaking when you see MJ dangling and you see a barely conscious Spider-Man reaching out for her.
Like one thing that he's like still trying to fight for, and he's like he still can't reach his. And you see his arm limp a little bit, and you think like oh my god, did they kill him? But of course, then Harry makes his like last minute like could have been here a couple of seconds like entrance. And we get like the awesome fight and beat down, and then we get to have uh Peter having a chance to actually really go toe to toe against like the dude that really caused a lot of heartache and problems for him when he could have just easily like rectified things on his own.
Oh yeah, but again, like he's the one who gets to kill Venom using the sonic
Pumpkin
wave
bomb.
and the pumpkin bomb. Of course, Eddie had to be the idiot to jump in and blow up, but yeah. But then he has one more final confrontation with Sandman where he gets to hear his side of the story for real.
And actually get to replay the whole thing over, and we get to see like it's like he didn't force Ben out like forcefully. He just kind of like was like
And I need the
nervously like
car.
tapping the gun against the door to say like, "Sir, I'm gonna need your car."
But he's like, why don't you put the gun down and go home?
And my partner came and just like shook me.
He had the cash and the
From
gun
my
was in his
hand.
hand, and boom.
I never meant to hurt you.
He says, I don't want forgiveness. I just want the truth. That's all. Because like he told his wife way earlier, I got the truth. And oh, your truth's been living for 4 years. Eh. But yeah, like it is. Peter hears he even says, everyone has a choice. You had a choice when you killed my uncle, and he says it was a complete accident.
But in the end, he did decide to forgive Salmon for like that one act and finally just let go of everything.
Because like you do the hardest thing, you forgive yourself and everything. And
And as you stated before, with Mary Jane's aspect, he like decides to like tries to start over new because he knows that like this is still something he really really wants, and like he'll understand if it won't take a couple weeks, it won't take a couple months, it'll probably take years, but that he like is focused on actually making things right.
and of course, he delivers that monologue that Harry taught him how to be the best version of himself. We always have a choice. So this is
So,
one of the movies without a final Spidey swing.
oh yeah, no, it ends with him and
The
Mary Jane
dance.
kind of like having a dance, and honestly, that's kind of like a very Spider-Man ending than that anyone could actually think of.
Mhm. You got a man ending. Is that what you came here to see? You're here to watch Man 3? Sorry, I had to make that joke.
The moral of this film is like twofold. There's the moral of the ambition of like having like everything delivered to you on a silver platter after years of like hardship and like fails and falls, but then you have to realize that you kind of have to take that with a little bit of a grain of humbleness because yes, you're finally getting like the praise that you've been seeking for. You, but was that what you were searching for from the beginning, or was like that kind of like an aftermath after fighting the good fight because it's like the right thing to do?
Yeah, because one scene that is funny is when I love how you can see, like, we didn't mention this, but during the scene when Eddie's like taking pictures of Spider-Man and says, Parker's work's amateur, think he looked hunky. I like how he actually seems offended, like under the mask, like, excuse me.
It's like okay then, gotta go.
I love how kind of whiny he comes off as when when they mention the staff job, and then hold on, I've been here for a long time, and it doesn't come off as like, hey, I've worked Harvard. It's more like, hey, if anyone should have a shot, it's me. Like, just a little entitled.
You want a step job? You want a step job? Does anyone want to know what I want?
I do.
Shut up.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, and I love how one scene that I think epitomizes it well is the scene when they love me when before the festival thing.
But you have to kind of sit there and go like, really now, kind of hard to tell considering that we have like this woman that's like acting out of her mind as like after Bryce Dallas Howard announces Spider-Man is coming. She's this woman and actress in the background is going like, "Wow, oh my god, my mind is blown. I'm actually just acting like a doll. Oh my god!"
Oh yeah, she went nuts, and then of course another scene where I go like, oh my god, Peter. I'm just quoting Owen to Hoskins. Do you hear somebody talk when he's talking about the whole? I know exactly how you feel. Like Spider-Man's a big homie, like all this stuff about how I just love how.
No. We're not talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about like a small actress is trying to make it big in the world.
And yeah, but see, yeah, just again, that's the whole, like I said, the lack of humbleness of just kind of pushing away things. But like you said, it is kind of cute to see him do his rehearsal of, like, some champagne. Oh, how'd that get there? Oh, don't
Oh,
cry.
don't cry.
Like,
It's like okay, it's like like it was kind of cute. He said like, "How did that get there?" Like, oh, don't cry. It's like the hell kind of playback are you playing in your mind, dude?
yeah, Derek, while we were watching, we're like, wait, what? He actually said it to that. Like, wait, what?
It just seems kind of random.
But oh my gosh, you're right that he learned that once he beat up MJ and realized how much messing up he was doing. Because I love it during the whole revenge thing, how he's all like, he killed Uncle Ben. I thought you'd be happy to hear he was taken out. I'm like, oh no, no one should decide to kill someone else just like that.
Spider-Man doesn't kill people. It's not what makes a hero.
And oh my gosh, I like how a lot of stuff that should be clear to him is just like lost on him because he's so up in his own head, and the suit's not helping things. And it's not until he gets rid of it he realizes with a clear head after a shower of, yeah, I made
You gotta
mistakes.
really like get yourself back down to earth, man. You got like there's bigger things out there than you. Like it's not everything is about you. You gotta like understand like, there's other people that are affected by things.
Hmm. And that's what he was learning at that point. That's why I love that scene with Aunt May and Peter after the whole thing. But
And another moral is that there's like this is like from the get go what Sam Raimi was trying to do of like trying to say like well it's like you typically in all these stories there's always like there's a bad guy and they always have the intent to like do ill deeds. You have the super righteous guy that's like comes in knows what he's up to and has like the know how, but not everything is like black and white like that. Like sometimes there's some people who are doing these bad things not because they're like evil and spiteful, because like well life just kind of dealt a bad hand to them and they're kind of like at their wits end of like what to do.
and then of course, like I said, and Spider-Man was willing to stop doing unheroic things just for the sake of making himself feel good, revenge. It's kind of like that scene in Batman when they're talking about justice and revenge in Batman Begins, but the justice is, the right thing being done by the law and everything like that. Revenge is making yourself feel good. And you go, oh, well, sometimes they're the same.
That's Batman Forever.
Begins.
No, Forever kind of delves into that a little bit too.
But that's the whole revenge. Like, okay, so you kill one face and go for another, and then another.
Another to wake up one day and realize revenge is becoming your whole life.
Oh, Val Kilmer. It's not fair what happened to you in the end, but he's still able to make the most out of it. But oh my gosh, so we learned those lessons, of course.
Unfortunately,
And
a lot of other people didn't manage to learn that, considering the fact that they spent way too much time memeing this damn thing.
mostly from he's become his own entity called Bully Maguire.
Yeah, it's like I just can't sit there and go like I don't get it. It's like how much can you edit like what is it like at least like 15 minutes of like a movie into like one thing, and then they reach the point where like they have to get like okay crap we have to get like out of context clips of Tony Maguire sounding sassy.
Like they take his like dirt out of your eye, or Toby like being mad and paparazzi blowouts. Get the fuck out of the way! I can't see.
Okay, that one was actually legit. Like, what even the hell were they thinking?
But oh my gosh, yeah, like I said, he's just confused by the memeing of Bully Maguire. Like he's become his own entity where they got stuff like Bully Maguire defeats the Illuminati, Bully Maguire defeats Thanos, and so on and so forth.
Uh, yeah, even though like it has a bit of reception, years later, do like even I find that still bad, and it's well, it, just like the movie, it's not clear cut and dry of like how things are. It's like not saying it's terrible, but it's like there were some things that kind of mired it in a way. It's like, but in the end, it just like the constant outweigh the pros that much. It's like could have been a lot better, but you can always just remember it's like could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Oh my goodness, I saying that, but it's very funny how you always had Spider-Man 1 and 2. They're the good ones, and Spider-Man 3, redheaded stepchild for some people.
Well, that's kind of how I grew up with it. It just kind of like a constant love hate relationship with this thing, and it's it's just hard to hate on something like this long. It's like just kind of tired on it. It's just taking it at face value and understanding what Sam was trying to go for.
I
Like
mean,
I can actually appreciate it a little bit more.
and oh my God, no, Sam is usually a clean cut and everything. When he was making his movie, he had like a shaggy beard and 5 o'clock shadow. It was just like he was working day and night to make this movie fit the deadline and to make everything he wanted to go right. So his blood, sweat, and tears are all over this movie. So it's not like Sam phoned it in or nothing.
If considering that again they were able to get to finally do this movie justice by having it in New York for like at least 90% of it now, instead of just like having like, oh, like 2 or 3 scenes we actually get to be in New York, but it's like, let's just hurry up so you can catch a flight to LA or Chicago.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, everyone gave it their all. So I don't know why people like to say it's the one where everybody sucks. Like everyone tried. It's just this is Sam at his most Sam Raimi. I think given a little more time to cook, or maybe another draft or another editing rewrite, it might have been turned out just as tight as Spider-Man 2 because all the ingredients were there for this to be like huge.
I honestly, now that I'm thinking out loud, I think the thing that kind of hindered it was the fact that this movie came out after the time of like we had the gritty Batman Begins reboot just come out.
And The Dark Knight
Like
was a year away after this one.
a lot of people were just kind of like starting to see comic book movies as like a serious mediums now, instead of just like, well, it's literally just like taking a comic book and put it to movie form and like really doing a good job of adapting it.
And
So
this
when
one,
they were just introducing like, oh, this movie's gonna be dark, it's gonna introduce a black suit, a lot of people thought it's like, oh wow, this is gonna be so like gritty and like it's gonna bring like like Spider-Man to like go toe to toe against Batman. And it's like,
well, hell, like even the game that came out at the same time, Web of Shadows, was like pointing in that direction.
but it's again, it's like you have to remember it's like the whole aspect of trilogies and the fact that they have to like have a consistent tone and theme. You can't just like do like, I don't know, uh, like do Godfather One, Godfather Part Two, and then just decide to just throw in the Return of the Jedi all of a sudden. It's just like it's like the themes and like motifs would be contrasting to the point where like people are going to like compare and contrast like the other entries of its own like uh medium, and that's really not a thing you want to do.
But
Like certain franchises do that; they actually have to have people like pick and choose like which ones they like over the other. But like for like a trilogy with the same director doing all three entries, you can't really end up doing that.
But yeah, you think Spider-Man 3 probably would have turned out differently if Sam wasn't behind the helm, but they kept the same
Oh,
like ideas.
oh my god, they would have like really just said like, yeah, let's just downplay Sandman a little bit, making like quote corny lines, making like be the thug again. Let's like make Harry look like the Hobgoblin, do like some of that, but kill him halfway, and then like make the whole movie Venom, 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 Venom.
Yeah, you're right. So it is a good thing Sam stayed in the helm, even though it took a toll on him and how exhausted he was by the end of it. I think he
But
said just
thankfully, he was able to come back to the whole hero like genre in the big way with the Multiverse of Madness, but for good or for ill, or bad for that one.
but yeah, I mean, I wonder what he's gonna do next because you got to love this. He loves this character. That's why he's so enamored, and I think that love shows through in the brightness, the spiritness, the corniness, the cringe. All that stuff shows up. It's from a genuine place of love he has for this character.
And it's like you can actually see that as like we're like finally at the end of this great saga, this films that literally defined our childhood. It's the the campy one, the really deep, like elevated to the point where superhero movies can be considered like really good art form movies. It's two, and then we get the third one, which is it would at least get like a lot of things out the door. Like for good or for bad, like they were able to at least finally get the chance to like this is probably gonna be like a one in a lifetime chance. We're probably never gonna get the chance to do this. So let's at least put the Black Suit out there. Let's at least like finish the Harry Osborn Goblin revenge story. Let's at least like try to see the relationship between Peter and MJ reach to a point where like will they or won't they like forever.
And like I said, this trilogy really did bring Spider-Man to be the pop culture icon of the 21st century, like we always say. Like, Spider-Man was always popular and always beloved, but the movies catapulted him to a whole other level. I remember KB Toys had a big display, and there was a TV screen, and that TV screen ran the Spider-Man 3 trailer on the loop constantly.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. Oh,
Oops.
no, that's good. A little bit of nostalgia can go a long way, especially when you get to revisit things like this entire trilogy.
But like I said, we had friends along the way, like Norman and JK and all of them. And when you in that theater, it really did feel like a good vibe. I mean, I know that it wasn't going to be the end. We thought maybe they might make another one, but then development stalled, and as history would have it, it was the last time we saw most of those characters. So it wasn't a bad note to end on when I think about it.
But thankfully, in hindsight, and with what would happen eventually down the line, uh, I can definitely say that the feelings of these movies have definitely gone much more to the realm of the positive spectrum, like mixed or muddled or negative.
I still remember the first review that shocked me that they admitted to really liking Spider-Man 3 versus the others was Doug Walker's top 10 list of movies that everybody doesn't like, but he likes, and he put Spider-Man 3 on there, and I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I remember that. I was surprised too, but then I remember that there's some poignant points that he made, and like really, when you get down to like all you're trying to do is like make a enjoyable film that everyone will grow up to and love, and considering the fact that we have a whole generation of people that will love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man up and down and all around,
I mean, to the
definitely
point where,
shows that.
and of course, there's fans that become fans of him, and they get really vicious when it comes to the war of who's your Spider-Man.
But we'll be able to touch lightly on when the cinematic Spider-Man gets a shake up when a different face dons the iconic costume. But next time we actually get to see the amazing fantasy retold again.
Yeah, so I can say our final thoughts on the Raimi trilogy was it defined our childhoods, it saved the character, and it was truly lightning in a bottle. Like really can't be replicated the same way. Like you could try doing the same ingredients, but it will never ever be like what happened in those years. And ever since I was 11 till I was, geez, almost 18 at that point, I had a thrill ride with him.
Yeah, it's like on the whole, my entire childhood was definitely built up on a predicate of like three things: is like Star Wars, uh, Sonic the Hedgehog, and really the Spider-Man trilogy.
And I can see it in your hero for crying out loud. I mean, I can definitely tell, and I respect it all the more. Like knowing these movies is almost like knowing you. So, but yeah, I mean that was weird to say, but
No,
again,
no, that's really that nailed it on the head there, dude.
yeah. So when you hear me talk about the movies I like, it kind of makes sense why I'm that way. So I mean, I'm don't worry, we won't be doing an Alien retrospective anytime soon, but don't be surprised if I pull that up. So yeah, you're right. We went to the stars. We went from the power of the sun to the Brooklyn Bridge to the outer space depths. But now we're gonna go back down to Earth with the untold story. Next time we talk around, like you said, a new face donning the cowl or the web in this case.
Prepare to be amazed, so to speak.
So, any more final thoughts, man?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
All right, then. Well, again, so we've kind of gone on long because I had a lot to say about this one.
Well,
So,
it's the last one of the trilogy, so we have to really like tie up all loose ends in this one.
all righty then. So, this is Jonesy Cat 79, aka Chris, signing off. And I'll go my buddy Derek, aka Dark Neon.
And until next time, true believers, Excelsior!
Catch you at the next one.
not the position I hired you for.
Black suit shit.
Black suit shit. That would be dark brown, I would think.